August 16, 2019. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of That's What G Said podcast. Gino Bucola here with you on a Friday as I'm recording this. It's a Pacific Classic weekend over at Del Mar, so we're going to do a full dive into that Del Mar card. I'm not going to be able to do the every single horse in every single race, because if I did, I think this would end up being like a 4-hour show. But I'm going to get through my thoughts on all 10 of the races. I'll spend some more time on certain races than I will with others. I think there's one race in the mix that I don't really like at all. And actually, I'm going to talk a little Saratoga. We'll have a Saratoga late pick 5 sequence to talk about, races 7 and on at Saratoga on Saturday. So get your past performances out. We're going to talk Del Mar Saturday, Saratoga Saturday, August the 17th. Also going to talk Beverly Hills 90210 episode 2 recap. We have an interview with Brian Monzo from WFAN, producer, and Darin Zoccali. It's an hour-long interview where we go through everything WWE, Saratoga Saturday. We hit on the Mets, we hit on the Yankees, a little bit of everything. So make sure to tune in a little bit later on for that awesome interview. And that's the layout of the show. So skip around if you like. Hi, everyone. That's What G Said podcast. Host Gino Bucola here, and you hear a lot on my show about Cindy Carava, full-service realtor, but I realized you've never met her. So I wanted to introduce you to Cindy Carava here. We're over at Coldwell Banker. And Cindy, what made you want to get into real estate?
Well, actually, Jack and I have bought and sold a lot of homes over the years, and we really like being able to take a home and redoing it, almost flipping it. We've had a lot of fun over the years doing it, so it really sparked my interest in wanting to actually get my license and do it for a living.
So what services do you offer?
I help everybody with either purchasing their homes or getting their homes ready to be put on the market, and I also do leases, whether you're looking for a tenant or you're also looking to rent out your property. I do that as well.
And where can we find more information about you?
I am on social media, Facebook and Instagram, but you also can find me on my website, which is cindycarava.com, or you can call me. My phone number is 626-394-6400, or you can email me at cindyc.realtor@gmail.com. Thank you, Gino.
One brief thing I wanted to hit on before we get into the specific segments. Real bummer for Demarcus Cousins. He injured himself again, a torn ACL. Now he will likely miss the entire season. And obviously, I'm a Laker fan, so I'm bummed for the Lakers, but really bummed for Cousins, because I've always liked him as a player. He's always, I think, got kind of a bad rap because he complains to the referees a little bit, but he's not a bad guy. He's never done anything wrong. His teammates all really seem to like him, and he's been really a good guy in the community. And now he has another injury after this is like his third major injury now. He only played 48 games in 2017 with the Pelicans. And remember, he was playing really, really well alongside Anthony Davis. And then last year with the Warriors, he only played 30 games. He started to get back into it. He got hurt. He came back for the playoffs and got hurt again. I think this guy really wants to win. And I feel really, really bad for him, because he probably lost in the last couple years now over $100 million at least. He was due for a max contract in 2017 before he got hurt. So real bummer for Demarcus Cousins, because whether or not you like a team, right? Like, I don't like certain teams, but I want to beat those teams at their best, and I never root for teams or players that get injured. That's always just a bummer. And with the Lakers in particular this year, it wasn't like they were paying DeMarcus Cousins $20 million. This was a $3.5 million deal where it was kind of it was a good value deal for the Lakers. They were hoping that, DeMarcus Cousins would be able to kind of get back to some level of the player that he was. He was in great shape. He lost a bunch of weight, and unfortunately he gets hurt before the season. So now we'll see what the Lakers do. Do they fill in immediately and go get one of the remaining big men that are out there to be a backup big man? Do they wait for a while, see if they can get someone in a buyout a little earlier in the season? We'll see. We'll see what they do. What's nice is obviously he was not necessarily someone you were planning on playing 35 minutes as a starter in a in a huge role. They were hoping that he could maybe get there, but he was more of a total wild card that could possibly vault your team to the next level. So this is not a good start for the Lakers, obviously, when you have a player that you were hoping to be a big part of your team gets hurt. But I think hoping is the key word. I don't know how much they were going to be counting on him. They were maybe hoping that he could get back to where he was. So we'll see what happens now with the Lakers moving forward. Let's jump right into some horse racing discussion. Let's go to Saturday, Saratoga. We're going to go to race number 7 at Saratoga on Saturday. You can play late pick 5 starting here, any of the other rolling exotic wagers. 6.5 furlongs. This is a maiden special weight for 2-year-olds. And start with the 1, Coast Basis. Dam of this one was 3 for 21, earned $105,000. A couple siblings, they were both 0-4. This is a Chad Brown and Javi teaming up, but I don't really like this one, who comes in from Monmouth Park. Just an okay work tab. You get the rail draw and 6.5 furlongs, which won't be easy. But Chad Brown, since the start of July, 23 first-time starters, 6 wins, 4 seconds, and 5 thirds. And actually, all of them, those winners were 5-2 or over. So these have been the horses that haven't necessarily been getting hit hard at the windows. The 2 Eagles Palace, I'm going to give a big look to in here. This is a second-timer for Bill Mott. His debut, it doesn't look great if you just look at the running line, but he was mid-pack. He got shuffled back a little bit, and he was back to last on the inside. He angled out, and he was able to kind of pass some tired horses late. Finished 5th in the field of 10, and it was just the debut. I expect him to get a lot better with that race under his belt. He's going to jump up and improve. Will it be good enough to win? I don't know, but see these courses improve a lot second time out for Mott. Let's give Eagles Palace a big look in here. The 3 American Butterfly was mid-pack, was squeezed back, and couldn't rebid in the debut for Lucas. I think, he's like Eagles Palace. He should improve, but I don't know if he'll improve quite enough, and I like the race that Eagles Palace ran much better. They actually come out of that same race on July the 21st. The 4 is a first-time starter, Candy Tycoon for Pletcher, who hasn't, really had a very good meet. He's at lots of seconds and thirds, just hitting around 13%. The dam of this one was unraced, 4 siblings, 3 winners for Candy Tycoon. And with first-time starters, a little bit cold as of late, 4 for their last 23, Pletcher. I'm going to side against Candy Tycoon in here. As far as the late sequences are concerned, can't use all the short price contenders in each race, right? We think in some of the following races, some of the short price contenders look like they'll be tough to beat. So we'll go against Candy Tycoon in here, who I don't even know if the money will obviously a lot of times matters in races like this, but I don't even know if he'll go off favored. I do think Irish Mia's will probably go off favored. The 5 Unprecedented dam of this one was 2 for 7, won the debut going 4.5 furlongs, and then we know his pops Bayern won his debut going 7 furlongs. This is the first full. This barn is not great with first-time starters. They're just 6 for their last 83 and 0 for their last 17. But they did win with a first-time starter last year at Saratoga in September. And I think there's a little ability here with Unprecedented. I'm going to have him in some of the exotics. Irish Mia's looks like the one to beat in here. Blinkers on for Graham Motion. This one makes his second start. It was in a race that got taken off the grass in the debut, and he completely blew the start. He was 10 lengths off. He stayed to the inside, and then he started to settle, and he started to roll. He angled out 4 wide. He closed very well in the stretch, and a big gallop out. Now adds the blinkers. Irish Mia's going to be really, really tough in here. Just that a repeat of that same race would win this. Accession missed the break. It was 15 lengths off of it, and he just never really got involved. That was just in the career debut, so like a couple others in here who were well beaten, he has plenty of room to improve. I just need to see a little more before I'm going to include Accession in some of the exotics. The 8 African Heritage, 2-year-old son of Cairo Prince. The dam was 0 for 1, 3 siblings, 2 winners though for African Heritage. And this barn is 0 for 73 with first-time starters over the last 5-year sample. Rounding out the field is Feisty Bird for trainer Ian Wilkes. This barn is just 15 for their last 278 with first-time starters. That's 5%. And they're just 2 for their last 20. But those wins have been at big prices. It's 17-1 and 20-1. They generally pop when they ever pop with first-time starters. And it's hard to play when the numbers are so low unless you find one that really looks great. And Feisty Bird just kind of looks okay on paper. That's why I really think Irish Mia's is going to be tough in here. You have a Chad Brown from the rail going 6.5 furlongs who just looks okay. You have a Pletcher first-time starter for a barn who hasn't really been firing on all cylinders with their firsters as of late. And then the rest of the field, Irish Mia's ran the best race by far and the most experienced. And I generally want a horse who has a race under their belt going 6.5 furlongs. It's just not an easy distance to debut at. It's not like debuting at 5.5 or 6. Once you get to 6.5 and 7, it's a little bit different. 6.25 in race number 7 at Saratoga. I would play some exotics where I single the 6 Irish Mia's. I'd also play another backup ticket where I use the 2 Eagles Palace, the 5 Unprecedented. I'd use them in exactas. Let's get to race number 8. Saratoga, the Smart and Fancy. Start the 1 Fire Key, who the main concern for her is the rail. 4 of these exit that Caress race on July the 21st where Fire Key was second. She broke well, but she ended up pushed back a bit to 5th. She moved up nicely 3 deep at the top of the lane, but she was never able to get to the 29-1 shot loose on the lead winner Momino. Fire Key could win this race. I just like a couple others more in here. I think the rail is really going to make it tough on her. She's going to be forced either more forward than she wants or forced farther back than she wants. And if she ends up in between, you get the shuffle and then you just don't really get to show your best. That's the kind of trip I'm envisioning here for Fire Key. The 2 Too Much Tip. Okay. If you go back to the June 7th race, was one of 3, the June race at Laurel, going 5.5 on the turf, win behind Minute to Stardom. It was one of 3 next out winners that day, and Minute to Stardom won the Grade 2 Honorable Miss next out at Saratoga. Then on July the 6th, Too Much Tip broke towards the back, but easily moved up on the outside, had the lead at the top of the lane. It was a good win. Really nice win. I think this mare has a long shot chance to sneak into some of the exotics. I'm going to use her in a late pick 4, late pick 5 if you play that. And I will also include in the bottom of exotics. I have her picked 3rd in here. She won't be the top horse, but I'll be using her in lots of spots at a price. If Ladies Island and Legendary, they're entered for main track only. So if they get in the race, this whole race and the complexion will be completely different because it won't be on the grass. And I always look to the main track only horses, and they'll both probably look really tough. And Ladies Island will be really, really tough, obviously. The 5 is Morticia, and she's the one to beat on the grass. Overall, she's 20 for 23 in the money in her career, and her debut on the dirt, she was 6th. So she's 20 for 22 in her grass races since then, and the 2 races she didn't hit the board, she finished 4th. She is as consistent as they come. She's a 9-time winner with 6 seconds and 5/3. She has speed, but she can sit just off. She's a very, very solid turf sprinter. Last time out, she broke with the leaders. She took back a length. She was a close-up 4th, 5th, but then she got stuck in behind horses. She never got out with the chance. Once she got a little bit of room late, she was able to stick her neck out, and it was a dead heat for 3rd. But she's the most logical winner and the horse to beat in this field. But like in all these turf sprints, trip is really key. You get shuffled back a little bit going 5.5 furlongs, and that could be the difference between winning and 4th. So, but with her running style, she generally puts herself in a really good spot, even the fact that she had the trouble last time out. The 6 is Miss Gossip, and if you just look at her starts for the new barn, they just have not been very good. even before that, she wasn't great in stakes races or when she had to deal with the likes of Morticia or Fire Key. So she just seems a little bit overmatched in here. I'm going to make the 7 Alexandra my slight top selection just based on price, but I do think the Alexandra and Morticia will be 2 horses that I've included in all of the exotics. Alexandra, if you go back and look at her entire resume since coming here into the U.S., she has 2 bad races. One of them was going a mile, not relevant to this sprint race, and the other poor race was a race that was really not that bad, only beaten 3 lengths, and it was a race that was followed by a few months off. So you can excuse that. There's some sort of an issue. She's shown up in every other race. Last out, she broke well, but so did everyone else. So she got squeezed back squeezed back. She was in a tight spot. Then she was 4 wide at the back of the pack. She angled out 6 wide in the stretch. Just a really consistent mare who's going to be right there on the wire. Alexandra, I'll make my top selection here. I have 7, 5, 2. The outside 2 Broadway run. She adds the blinkers, but she has to turn the tables on Fire Key and Morticia. She's 0 for her last 6, but her last win was at Saratoga last year, going 5.5 on the grass. So you see that as a positive. Ruby Notion was behind Alexandra last time out. Did take a lot of money in that Royal North Grade 2. Need to see more, though, from Ruby Notion, who was actually last year's Caress winner at Saratoga. So does have some success over this turf course. 7-5-2 if the race remains on the grass. We'll make a win wager on Alexandra if she is around 3-1. And Morticia looks like the horse to beat. We won't be really chucking her out of the exotics. The too much tip. Let's try to get her into the mix in exactas and tries with the 7 and the 5, and then maybe we can spice things up a little bit there. Race 9 at Saratoga. This is the Grade 2 Lake Placid, mile and a 16th on the turf course for 3-year-old fillies. The one Varenka for Graham Motion. Javi Castellano is aboard. She is multiple graded stakes placed. She won an allowance race, first level allowance last time out. She broke out a bit. She worked her way up into a nice 2-deep spot. She was 7th, 8th. She was 6-7 lengths off. She waited patiently to the top of the stretch. She angled out widest of all with a sustained stretch battle. She almost got forced 4-5 wide into the first turn, and she tucked in early on. It was a good ride, and it was a move that probably helped her win the race. And she is in a great spot. She's in good hands. She should save all the ground again. The only problem I have with this race is there's not a ton of speed, and she might be a little bit too far back, and she could be late onto the scene. So I've picked her third. Based on the way this race might shape up, there's just not a lot of speed in here. The 2, Amandrea. She broke well in her last start. She sat third. She was 3 off. She moved 2 deep. Then she was 3 deep at the top of the lane. She took the lead briefly, but she ended up second best. This is probably a little too tough of a spot for her to win. But if you're looking for a horse to hit the board, what's nice about Amandrea is she's shown a little bit more positional speed in her last couple starts, and this race doesn't have a ton of speed. They get a little aggressive with her. She might be able to hang around for a slice at a price. Vow to Recover broke on top but settled off, then got stuck inside behind horses, was bottled up inside with nowhere to go. All that being said, I still don't know, even if she won that last race, does that mean she's good enough to compete with the best in here? I see her as just a cut below. The 4 Blowout I'm against. She was in a field of 3 last time out. She got the easiest lead you could ever possibly imagine. No excuses if she finished second. It was the field of 3 of Chad Brown. Now, her 2-back win was pretty good. She defeated Seek and Destroy, who was a Grade 3 winner next out. But I just don't know if she's going to get any situation where she gets the lead easier than that. But you look on paper, again, she should be cruising on the lead in this field. But that was a field of 3 where she was able to slow things down, get a length and a half lead, and still couldn't hold off Regal Glory, who is in here again. So it would be tough for me to go back to Blowout when Regal Glory was able to get her right on the money. And then you feel like with just a slightly bigger field, that there'll be a little bit more pace signed on. Regal Glory sat 3 off the third of the 3, was 3 deep into the turn, took back to, 2-3 lengths off, angled up, got the lead, and worked a bit to hold the W. But got the better of the blowout who had that advantage. I think Regal Glory is the one to beat in here. But the one to bet is right next door. Feel Glorious. Feel Glorious, you go back to her May the 18th race. She settled inside. She was 6th. She was just three off. She was behind horses. She waited to go. She waited, moved to the rail. It was a solid second, and she was a clear-cut second. She probably should have won that day. And that would have been her 3rd win in a row since coming into the U.S. She was a fine second. Most recently, on June the 22nd, she took back to 4th of 5. She was 5 off. She was in the 2 pass, so she was losing ground. She was off in a race that was just a really slow pace up front. Blowout won that race when just kind of sitting really close and nobody moved a ton in that one. She also was crossed over on a bit by one of her rivals who had the outside momentum. So, Feel Glorious will be the top selection. I don't think she has to be as far as Varenka. I'm going to give her another shot in here. So I'll have Feel Glorious on top of Regal Glory on top of Varenka. Those are the 3 for me. We'll take a shot against Blowout. The 7 Wildlife, 0 knocks for her. She's also cross-entered at Del Mar. She was away slowly. She was last. She started the move. And around the half-mile point, she was widest of all. She was 6+ deep at the top of the lane, and she just made a huge sustained move right on by. It was a super impressive victory for her 2nd straight win to make her 2 for 2 on the grass, deep closer. That's the only issue with using her in this spot. How far back early is she going to have to be? 651 Feel Glorious, who I think was taken back in her last start, and I think it was a small field. They grabbed a hold, didn't get the best trip when one of her rivals was coming from the back, crossed over, give Feel Glorious another shot, Regal Glory the one to beat. Varenka, if she saves all the ground and gets a little bit of pace to run at, she'll be tough. 651 in the Lake Placid, race number 9. 10th race, the Grade 1, Alabama. And I think Chad Brown has perhaps the 2 best 3-year-old fillies right now. If Dunbar Road wins the Alabama, we'll probably say that with Guarana and with Dunbar Road. 3 for 4. Lone loss came in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. Most recently, we saw Dunbar Road win the Mother Goose. She was close up inside. She wanted to go early, but she settled pretty nicely in 4th, length and a half off. A rival snuck through her inside and actually shuffled Dunbar Road back a little bit. She was in between horses. She was actually last, waiting for room. Got a nice opening. She was last, but she was only a couple lengths off. Got a nice opening. She moved 3 wide and in between. It was an easy win when she eventually got that room. So that's a nice Grade 2 winner, Dunbar Road, and she'll take a ton of money in here. The 2 Lady Apple. She's a multiple graded stakes winner. This is a pretty quality Alabama field, even though this year's group of 3-year-old fillies has gotten some knocks for not being the strongest. You have Dunbar Road as a Grade 2 winner. You have Lady Apple as a multiple graded stakes winner. Champagne Anyone is a Grade 2 winner. Street Band is a multiple graded stakes winner. Eulalie is multiple graded stakes placed. Point of Honor is a Grade 2 winner. Off Topic is multiple graded stakes placed. Not a bad field at all. Lady Apple's last start, she was forwardly placed. She ended up 2nd. She was in the 2 path. She was a length off, and she moved to the lead early in the stretch. She had to work through the stretch, though, to put away and to keep Eulalie put away. So if you look at Eulalie, I think she can just be used as a pace factor because she got to the lead. She was able to clear off in a really small field. She tried hard all the way. There was a no excuses second. I just don't know why Eulalie will be able to hold off Lady Apple in this field where there's a couple others who will probably show some speed going longer when Eulalie couldn't do that going a mile and a 16th at Prairie Meadows. Fleet Destiny looks a bit overmatched in here. I like Champagne Anyone. If you'll notice, Champagne Anyone beat Dunbar Road and Point of Honor in a really similar type spot in the Gulfstream Park Oaks on March the 30th. Now, wasn't the similar as far as the distance is concerned. Obviously, that was a mile and 16th, and at Gulfstream, this is a mile and a quarter at Saratoga. But what was similar is that the two horses that were getting all of the attention were Dunbar Road and Point of Honor, and that will likely be the case in here again today. If you look back at Champagne Anyone's most recent start in the CCA Oaks, she lost to Guarana, who's 3 for 3, and she tried to press Guarana early. She sat second, she moved up, and she was right on terms with Guarana, and then Guarana spurted clear a little bit, and Champagne Anyone dropped back a length. Then Champagne Anyone came up on Guarana again, right before the top of the lane, was in between horses, made a big, bold move, was right on the lead with all 3 horses across the track, but then when Guarana was asked for a run, she faded immediately. She took 2 big shots at a really nice filly. She tried to run with her all the way and just couldn't. She has some quality. The concern I have for Champagne Anyone is the mile and a quarter going to be her best distance. I don't know. She could get a very nice trip. If she has some speed, she could, sit second or third in here. Maybe not be quite as pressing Guarana like she was last time out. She can maybe be a little bit more relaxed. Grade 2 winner, Champagne Anyone, going to be my top selection in a horse I'll make a win wager on if we get over 6-1. Street Band, multiple graded stakes winner. She won the Indiana Oaks last time out, and you could probably toss her Kentucky Oaks. I would not talk you off her. I just don't like her as much as I like the others. But I wouldn't talk you off her because she should offer at least a decent price at around, if she's in anything around 8 to 10-1, that's where she should be. Mentioned Eulalie, who I can just see as an under horse with the speed. No, she's a nice filly. I just don't think she's going to get the type of trip she would need to win in this race, because she got the type of trip she needed to win last time out, and she still couldn't hold off Lady Apple. She'll have to improve on Lady Apple, Point of Honor, and Off Topic. Point of Honor, she's really done very little wrong in her career, right? She's a grade 2 winner. Last time out, she took back, but she kept wide into the turn. She waited at the back of the pack in 5th, but she was just 3 to 4 off. She angled outside. She was 4 wide. She closed well, but she was a clear-cut second behind Guarana. She outfinished Off Topic and Champagne Anyone. Logically, you think that a little more distance should not be a problem for Point of Honor. She's going to be tough. She will be coming late. She will be launching that late rally. I think if you're looking for a price to include in the race, a horse who might get forgotten about a little bit is the 8 Off Topic. If she's around 10-1, throw her in some of your exotics. She's a total grinder, and the distance won't be an issue for her. She can keep going, running and running and running. I just don't know if she has enough of a turn of foot, or if she's quite quick enough to win a race like this. But if some of the other fillies don't want to go this far, she'll keep going. The problem with a filly like her, though, she can't get stopped and started again. She has to kind of have her motor running for a while and build it up, and then just keep chugging all the way through. The 9 is Kelly's Cross. First time on the dirt. The dam was unraced. The lone Sib won on the grass. The lone Sib was a turf winner. So first time on the dirt with not a lot of turf success, with not a lot of dirt success in the breeding. I'm going to be just treating her like a total wild card. I play this race 4, Champagne Anyone, with the 7, Point of Honor, with the 1, Dunbar Road, with the 8, Off Topic. 4, 7, 1, 8. Then the 11th race to close things out, I just like one horse. And so if you play any exotics, I will be singling the 5, More Mischief, who will likely be the favorite, or I guess battling for favoritism. I'd expect her to go off favored. She was mid-pack in her last start. She was 4 off. She was 5th, 6th. She kept to the inside. She tried to angle around in the stretch. It was a good third. 2 starts back, she lost to a horse named Kept True, who came back to win an optional 62 to non-2 next out. And Kid is Frosty won back-to-back $150,000 New York bred stakes. So she comes out of some decent races. I think she fits well because I just couldn't find anyone else in here that I really loved. And so I think she might be an okay thing in a mediocre New York bred first level allowance race. That'll be the way I end some of the exotics there with the single of the number 5, More Mischief. Second off the short break, really only making her third start of the season. She should be set for her absolute best. Little stretch out to 7 furlongs. More Mischief. That's Saratoga Saturday for you. Let's get on over to Del Mar Saturday. Get your past performances out for Del Mar. Let's talk race number 1. So I'll kind of pick and choose. At Del Mar, I won't go through every horse in every race, but some of the races I'll dive all the way through. The first race, optional 62 non-2 mile on the dirt. The one major cabbie came into the Peter Miller barn and just crushed last time out. He had a good start. He sat a really close up second. He angled to the 2-path, and he never looked like a loser. And I think he sits and saves all the ground in here because there looks like there's a pretty good amount of speed for a small field. The 2 California Journey doesn't look like he is one of those speeds, though. He got a perfect trip sitting in third, 2 lengths behind 2 who were battling, and he went right by them and then held off a late challenge and kicked clear at Los Al last out. So just from the way the race shapes up on paper, if he sits like that, he should be at least picking up some pieces late. The 3 Tool Fog adds the blinks, and he only has a few dirt races. One of them was really good. The Bertrando 2 starts back when just beaten a nose at Los Al. The concern I have is he has a little speed. He got a really good trip. Just kind of get involved. He was sitting right in the mix that day. And I don't know with Paladar and Fari what kind of trip Tool Fog will be able to work out in here. Because Paladar is pretty quick, and he actually can sit a little bit. In his last start at Churchill Downs, he broke well, but he couldn't get to the lead. So he actually sat third, fourth. He was within 2. He was in the clear. He moved up right onto terms with the leader before tiring. Now you get a cutback. You have a horse who has some speed or who can sit. You come over here in Southern California. You pick up Pratt. Plenty of things to like about Paladar, who has the speed. And then Fowry, who has won 2 in a row, has looked like a completely different animal since coming into the John Sadler barn. The July 6th race, he beat 4 next out winners. The second place finisher came back to win a 12-5. The fourth place finisher came back to win a 20 beaten claimer. The 6th place finisher come back to win a 20 claimer. And then the 8th place finisher won a 16 non-2 at Del Mar. So Fari has, what I like about Fari when you look at him, connections have thought highly of him. He's been entered in graded stakes races multiple times. He's just had some issues, right? We see he had a long layoff from March of 2017 to May of 2018. And then right when he won and he was entered against Grade 3 Company, he was again off the bench, again sent to the bench from November 2018 to March of 2019. So he's had some issues for a 5-year-old. But horses like this who have always maybe had a little bit of back class and have faced tough company, he's interesting. Because maybe it took a little while to get him figured out. Maybe now he's starting to become the horse that he was always meant to be. And maybe he's starting to be that Forrest John Sadler. Maybe they fixed something. He broke well. He was back to second for just a moment. But then they got aggressive. He took the lead back and he opened up by 6 to win at Los Alamitos. Talented, had some issues, but when he's at the top of his game, he's really good. And he's tough to exclude in here. The only reason why I don't have him on top is because I think that Paladar and Fari will probably end up battling it out with each other early on, and even Route 66 on the outside. Route 66 drew the rail, was in a tight spot on the inside, didn't seem to love it, and now goes from the inside to the outside. He has a lot more speed than he showed last time out. He could be pressing and be right on the front end too. And he comes out of some races that were okay. You know, he lost a draft picks in the Pacific Classic. El Huerfano won an allowance race next out and then went up to Emerald Downs. The way I have this race on paper, I just think the one Major Cabby will sit the trip, save the ground. I don't think he's as fast as Fari, Paladar, or Route 66. And he should probably be in front of or right next to saving ground with California Journey. So Major Cabby with, Tool Fog, blinkers on speed, going to be really close also. And then Paladar, Fari, really big speed players. And then Route 66, who's going to go inside to outside, and he's going to want to show speed again because all of his best races have been right when he's on the lead. Feels like Major Cabby's going to get a great setup, saving ground from the rail. 1, 5, 4, 6 is the way that I'll have race number 1 pegged, with Major Cabby on top and possibly a horse to single right off the bat in some of the in the pick 5. Race number 2. Race number 2. Maidens, fillies, 2-year-olds, a $150,000 claimer. This is basically a maiden special weight. The one Lucia's design, the dam was a 4-time winner, 4 for 23, earned $113,000. She produced 4 foals, so 4 siblings for Lucia's design, all of them winners. The only problem I have is that this barn is not really a barn that cranks their horses to win first time out. And you can see the work pattern. There's at least a work missing in there between July and August. Barn just won for their between July 19th and August the 7th. Barn just won for their last 28 over the last 5 years with first-time starters and 0 for the last 15. So I will watch this filly second and third time back. Big fan of Craig Lewis, just not first time out. Well Done Sally ran a really good race in her debut. She was 3 deep, she showed speed, but she couldn't cross over and put away the other speed, so she briefly had the lead. She was a clear-cut second that day. That was not a bad effort at all. And everybody else, we assume, with the first-time starters, they'll come out running. We know we're going to get we know Well Done Sally can give us a good effort. So if, some of these first-time starters don't come out running, she's going to be right on the lead again, most likely. Seahawk Lisa is the 3. Dam was unraced, is the first foal for Seahawk Girl. And Jerry Hollendorfer, 3 for the last 16 with first-time starters. Very capable. She looks okay in here. I wouldn't really talk you off her, but I'm not completely sold or high on her. I do like the 4 Samurai Charm. I think this is this has a look of a very live 2-year-old filly first-time starter for Peter Miller. The Dam was unraced, but she's dropped 6 foals, so 6 siblings that have raced for Samurai Charm. All of them are multiple winners, including Backseat Roll, who earned $301,000. It was 5 for 13 and a multiple stakes winner. Peter Miller's been awesome with the first-time starters at the meet, and he just had been having a really good meeting. And like anything, with the capable first-time starter, he's going to win more races than not. She looks very live. She's training really well over this racetrack at Del Mar. With your permission, first-time starter, 2-year-old daughter of Take Charge Indy, the Dam, Brucey, was unraced, but she has dropped 3 foals, all winners. A half to Majestic Slew, who was 8 for 39, $307,000, multiple graded stakes place. So there's a little pedigree there for With Your Permission. The barn has won with 5 of their last 21 first-time starters, but those were all up at Emerald. So we'll have to see and kind of make these connections, prove it down here in what looks like a decent little maiden special weight race. But I wouldn't be completely against With Your Permission. It's just, I want to see a little bit more. Paid Informant goes out for a barn that is not great with first-time starters, but a really good barn overall. Richard Baltus, just 12 for their last 166 with firsters, but 3 for their last 15. They did win at this meet with Savvy Girl at 5-1, and this particular filly does draw Flavian Pratt. But the Dam was 0 for 4, 6 siblings for Paid Informant, 4 of them were winners. She's another that just is in the mix. It's why price, I guess, will matter a lot in this race, because it looks like there are 4 or 5 that I have that are logical, and they might all be right around the same price. KP Whirlwind, 2-year-old filly, first-time starter. Dam was 1 for 4. 3 of the 4 sibs won. Just 7 for the last 89 with first-time starters, though, Jeff Mullins. but 4 first-time starters at the meet, 1 win, 2 seconds, and a fourth. So as of late, they've been a little bit better. Orquidis Biz rounds things out. Mike Smith jumps on, the second-time starter for Jeff Mullins, who debuted at Ellis Park. It was an okay start from the rail, but she was stuck inside and wanted to get outside. She forced her way out, and she kind of caused a bump chain reaction. She seems to have a little bit of ability and at least has the race under her belt, gets off the rail, which she did not seem to like, goes inside to outside. I have Samurai Charm on top, the 4, with the 8 in second, with the 2 Well Done Sally third, with the 6 Paid Informant fourth. So formful in race number 2, but I think those are the horses that look like the most likely winners, and with your permission would maybe be the next horse if I was going to use or look for a pricier horse in race number 2. Won't spend a ton of time on the third race. It's the Green Flash, the grade 3. You will see the 2-time Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint champion, Stormy Liberal, making his return. He's probably not at his best, though, in here. Undrafted is a very well-traveled individual. And then you have Eddie Haskell, who's just in really nice form right now. And I think he's the one to beat. He loves his turf course. He loves to win. He can sit just off. He can show some speed if need be. I think he ends up sitting in here because Calixman's pretty quick, and Mr. Vargas is also pretty quick. So Eddie Haskell and Stormy Liberal probably end up right behind. And I think Eddie Haskell is just the more likely of the winners with the recent races, and with the races under his belt, he's probably just going to be a little bit sharper and a little bit better late than Stormy Liberal, who he also got the better of back in February. So if you're playing an early pick 5, maybe this is the race to single. I don't think you can play both Stormy Liberal and you can't play both Stormy Liberal and Eddie Haskell and double your tickets up when they're the 2 chalks. You have to pick one of the 2, or maybe if you're going to use another price horse, that's fine with one of them. But I would never play the 2 of them because the payouts would be similar, but your ticket, you're just doubling up. It's just not a smart wager. So pick one of the 2, single them, or if you like someone else and you want to include them with that. But I think that Eddie Haskell is the single in the early pick 5. Fourth race, I'm not even going to talk at all. I just do not like this race. So if you're playing an early pick 5 sequence and you have a strong opinion, best of luck. I'll help you with some of the other races throughout. But I would probably just buy this race in the pick 5 sequence because I started to dig into it a little bit and I didn't love it. Fifth race is maidens, 3-year-olds and up, mile on the turf course. I will just talk about the few that I like in this spot. I think you can get this race wrapped up with 7 and 12. And it's a big field. A lot of people will probably be spreading out. But I think those are the 2 horses that you need in the pick 5 here. Success and Surpass is the 7. He had a slow start. He was 3 deep. He moved up to within just a few lengths before tiring. It was a nice middle move up into contention. It was a good first start in the U.S. I'm expecting big improvement out of that. That was his first start in the U.S. That was his first start for Baltus. That was his first start since April. That was his first start on the grass. Now he also picks up John Velasquez. I think Succeed and Surpass should be used on all your exotics. And then Mo Forza, who he was just clearly second best last time out. He ran a winning type race. And I think with the outside, he's going to have to be a little more forwardly placed to keep from getting hooked wide. And so he should be in the mix throughout. Nothing crazy, nothing sexy about race number 5. But I do like the 7, Succeed and Surpass. If you get 9-2, make a win wager, and then use the 7 and the 12 in your exotics if you're playing that early pick 5. Sixth race, maiden special weight, 2-year-old, 6 furlongs. The 1, Tis a Magician, was 4th of 5, was 4 off, was 2 deep, kept to the outside, was a nice second in his career debut. The only problem now, he draws the rail again in a sprint, which won't be easy. The 2, Smooth Like Straight, the Dam was 1 for 3, earned $38,000. One of the 2 Sibs was a winner. His barn with first-time starters is 8 for their last 77 and 2 for their last 18. Capable with the right 1. And you do get Pratt to jump aboard. The 3 is Honor AP, who I'm going to make my top selection. Mike Smith jumps on for Sheriffs. This barn is only 5 for their last 50 with first-time starters, but break it down smaller, they're 2 for their last 7. They can win with the right one. This guy is bred well. The Dam was a 4-time winner and earned over $1 million. Multiple grade 1 winner, Hollywood Story. She's produced 7 foals, and 6 of them have been winners so far. Good blood, good pedigree. I think a sneaky work on August the 3rd that hints that Honor AP has some ability. I'm going to make him my top selection in here. The 4 Royal Thunder. Wouldn't talk you off this first-time starter who has some really good works. I was going to say sneaky. What's sneaky about fastest of 53 with a bullet on August the 2nd, and then a bullet on the 25th of July, fastest of 57. Nothing sneaky about that, Gino. The Dam of Royal Thunder was a 5-time winner, earned $145,000. The lone sib to race for Royal Thunder was a 2 for 10. And this barn is won with 2 of their last 5 first-time starters. Really good with limited numbers. Yakteen is a really good barn. Anytime I look up, I expect horses to improve and just they get the best out of their runners. Hydrogen is the Baffert first-time starter in here. You expect this guy to take some money. The Dam was just 1 for 14, though. 5 siblings, 3 multiple winners. Not necessarily like a monster pedigree. Baffert is 90 for his last 319 with first-time starters when you break that down. And when you really think about that, that is unbelievable. He's 2 for 8 at the meet. He had wins with 8 rings and immediate impact, who won impressively as first-time starters. We'll see if Hydrogen is the next impressive Baffert firster. Ginobili, the Spurs great. Gino Bealey, his career debut, he broke fine. He ran up onto heels a little bit, though, and he was kind of behind horses, so he was a little bit green. He needs to take a nice step forward. He did get action that day at Los Alamitos, though, for Baltus, and this barn does better with horses after a start or two. Braun, you Game of Thrones fans. Here's Braun. Takes the blinkers off after flashing some speed in the debut. He actually got the lead, but he wasn't able to cross over. When you get the lead and you still have someone down to the inside that's pestering you, that's the difference between winning and losing. And Braun battled with Disco Ball. They ended up dueling each other. I thought Braun ran really well to only be beaten the length. He has big speed. He lost to a horse named Collusion Illusion, who came back to win the grade 2 pound next out. Let's give Braun a big look in here with the speed, with the experience. Fredericktown broke on top. He pressed from the 2 path. He got the lead for a second, and then he tired. He ended up finishing last of 5 for Desormo. The brothers Desormo come right back with this one, though, and could have that second out improvement. The problem is he's going to have to deal with some speed right next to him in Braun. Special Day, the 9. Hollendorfer, first-time starter. We gave you some of the numbers for Hollendorfer earlier on. The Dam of this one is 2 for 15. The lone sib, just 1 for 15. And then Tyshawn to round things out. First-timer for Richard Baltus. Dam won her first 2 starts. She was 9 for 26 and earned $377,000, so some precocity with the Dam of this one. Twirling Candy was also very good. Nice little pedigree for Tyshawn, but you have a outside draw in a big field, and for a barn who's not always known for cranking their first-time starters. I thought this was a fun race to handicap because you can make lots of cases in here. I have the 3 Honor AP on top of the 5. Hydrogen on top of the 7. Braun with the 4. Royal Thunder. I wouldn't talk you off using the 1 Tis a Magician or the 2 Smooth like Straight. The 6 Ginobili has a little experience, and the 8 with the race under the belt. And then you have first-time starters for Hollendorfer or Baltus, the outside. This is a wide-open group. We'll put the 3 on top, 3, 5, 7, 4. Can't use them all. 3, 5, 7, 4. If you wanted to go at one more deep or looking for another one, I would include the 1 after that. Race number 7 at Del Mar. Let's get to the Del Mar handicap. You look at Oscar Dominguez from the inside. I was not really a fan of the strength of the San Juan Capistrano. I think he's more of like an upper tier allowance horse and a fine horse at that. But you look, he's going to have to turn the tables on some of his common rivals, Marquise Water and Acclimate. The Deuce, Ritzy AP. I could see him as an underneath horse to use with some speed. Some of his better races come when he's able to flash some speed or just kind of get in a good spot, good tactical style. But I don't know if he's going to be able to hang around going 1 mile and 3/8 in here. Blended Citizen looks like a long shot. He just hasn't really been in good form since that Peter Pan win last year. Need to see more from him before I'll be able to start including him in some of the exotics. What makes this race tough is that you're going to come to the 4 horses right now that look like the real top contenders. And that's Marquise Water, United, The Great Day, and It's in the Post. So when you're playing a lot of your late exotics, they're going to come down to how do you approach this race and how do you approach this group of 4? Because again, are you going to use all 4 of these horses that are just kind of the logical horses to include when none of them's really a big price? When you're talking ticket structure, it's not necessarily smart to use 4 horses who are probably going to be all around the same. I mean, you'd be better off using 1 or 2. And so that's what you have to decide. Okay, which of these do you like the most? If I'm ranking them, I'm going to use United on top. I think he has some upside, lightly raced. Back on May the 25th, he got bumped around a bit and he went down to his nose. He bobbled, but he ended up recovering. He was 5th. He was only 2 deep and he was about 5 lengths off. He loomed up 4 deep at the top of the lane, but he was just second best that day behind Marquise Water, but he was still good, and I think he's still figuring things out and learning. Last time out, he didn't really get going until late, which makes me think that he'll be even better at this kind of a trip at the 1 mile and 3/8. So I think United, lightly raced with some upside. I'm expecting a big effort from United. I'm going to play against Marquise Water, who was just up late for second. He ran really well back in August last year, going to 1 mile and 3/8 at Del Mar. He could win, but I think with his running style, he's a little more compromised and likely to be coming late on the scene. The Great Day was a very good second last out at Arlington Park. He was 5th. He was 6 off. He was a clear-cut second. He's another logical contender in here. John Velasquez comes in to ride for Arnaud Delacroix. In ranking these 4, I probably have the Great Day slightly in front of Marquise Water. But the horse I'll have second and who I would use in all of your exotics along with United is It's in the Post. He's a 7-year-old. He might have lost a step or 2. But the last effort showed me that maybe there's still something left in the tank. In a spot like this, 2 years back or in early 18, he would have been really tough and a heavy favorite. And his upside, his best races are better than what we've seen from anyone in here. So if he's able to show up with something close to his best, that's probably better than what anyone else can show up with. Maybe United, who I'm projecting to hopefully improve a little bit. The Great Day's only raced a few times in this country, so he could step forward a little bit also. But I think the ceiling is the highest for It's in the Post. So let's have the 5 United and the 7 It's in the Post as the 2 we use in all the exotics. Depending on how you approach the late exotics and how you play it, the other 2, I think, were obviously Marquise Water and the Great Day, but you can't use all of the A, B, C, D horses. It's not logical. It doesn't make a lot of sense unless you're going to be singling into big bombs later on in the sequence. And even in that, it still doesn't make a lot of sense because you'd be better off picking the ones that you like and doubling up. So 5 United, 7 It's in the Post. Marquise Water and the Great Day are right in the tier behind them. 8th race. It is the Grade 3 Torrey Pines. So we'll see some 3-year-old fillies here. This is one of my stronger plays of the day. I don't know about better. We'll see if the horse wins or not. I like the one Into Chocolate quite a bit. Career debut, she's one of 4 next out winners. She exits a really strong race. She comes back in career start number 2 on June the 9th. She breaks on top. She actually gets pushed back on the inside, but she's always traveling well. She waited nicely behind horses. She got a seam. She angled out 3 deep and in between, and it was very, very professional. And she defeated a next out maiden special weight winner named Scarlett. On July the 26th, last time out, she stumbled at the start. She ends up last in a field of 5, and then she takes a little while to get comfortable. She makes an early 4-wide move all the way up right on terms, but she was just second best. She couldn't go on with the older Katie Trey. And that she faced older last time out. Now she's back in with 3-year-olds. The blinkers go on, so she'll have a little bit more focus. Into Chocolate, my top selection. I'll make a nice win wager on her if we can anything over 5-1. The 2 is High Regard, who I think's a little bit overmatched. Need to see a little bit more from this filly. Classic Fit looks like the one to beat to me because it seems like there's a lot of speed in here. And you'll say, well, Classic Fit just showed speed last time out. I think she just kind of ended up on the lead because she was fresh and because they were not going very fast at all. She got to the lead easily. She put away the other speed, and she was a clear second behind Dunbar Road. She was fresh. They did not go fast early. She just inherited the lead. And I don't think she'll be on the lead in here at all with the speed signed on to her outside. But the fact that she has a little bit of tactical speed and positional speed, and she's versatile, and she's shown the ability to win from sitting off, to win from coming from last, and to show some good speed and finish second. I have her pick second in here, and actually she's one of 2, and the only 2 that I'll use in all the exotics, the 1 and the 3, Into Chocolate and Classic Fit. Hollywood Hills, she'll get the trip in here. She should get a nice setup. I just don't think she's quite at the level with some of these top 3-year-old fillies in here. Colonial Creed, I think the same for her. She'll probably be not as fast as Fighting Mad or Kim K or Sneaking Out, and that could end up putting her in a good spot right behind them. But I don't know if she's going to be good enough to end up passing any of these fillies. Sneaking Out is really quick. She has got a lot of ability. She's a nice Calbred, but now she's going to have to go a mile and deal with Fighting Mad right to her outside and Kim K. Because Fighting Mad for Baffert is going to be making her first start past 6 furlongs. And she's gotten a little tired at 6 furlongs. She's going to be right on the lead pressing. And then Kim K to the outside. Her best races are when she's on the lead. The 3 outside fillies can fly. And I don't see how Fighting Mad's going to be able to sit off going a mile. I don't think Kim K will be able to sit off with her speed. To me, this race looks like it's going to set up beautifully for the 1 and the 3. Into Chocolate to save all the ground, and for Classic Fit with the versatility. Those are the 2 I'll be using in all exotics. The Del Mar Oaks is the 9th race. 1.1 miles on the turf for 3-year-old fillies. Cambier Park is going to be pretty tough for Chad Brown. He ships this 3-year-old filly in. She most recently was 3rd in the Grade 1 Belmont Oaks when she was about 3 off. She was in 3rd. She ended up takes back a little bit to in between horses in the second flight. She moved out, but she just couldn't get to Concrete Rose. She ended up losing the battle for second. We've seen Concrete Rose come back to a real impressive victory. Cambier Park might be a bit farther back early in here, exiting some races that were not going very fast early on, and the 1.25 mile race last out. I have her picked second, though. She's absolutely the one to beat in here because she just faced better, and she's going to be really, really tough. Maxim Raid is the 2 for Simon Callahan. I think the 2 and the 3 both are long shots who are just a little bit overmatched in here. I couldn't build a strong case for either one of them to sneak into the exotics. I could for the 4, and I'm going to make Hard Legacy my top selection here. I think she's going to sit 4th or 5th behind, on paper, what looks like speed from Raymundo's Secret, Keeper of the Stars. I don't think Dog Tag's going to be far. Sold It is going to be in the mix early. Mucho Unusual has some speed and could be right in that early flight. So with that combination of horses all possibly showing early speed, I think Hard Legacy could work out a trip right behind them. Similar to the trip she had when she won in her debut, where she was kind of sitting fourth early. Even the Gulfstream career win number 2, when she kind of sat off early and then moved. Envisioning that for Hard Legacy, Norm Cassie. I look at some of the horses that she's faced recently. She beat Varenka. Varenka's 3-1 in the Lake Placid. She was behind Regal Glory, who is the favorite in the Lake Placid, and Princess Caroline, who won a first level allowance next time out. I like the races Hard Legacy's coming out of. I think she can sit. Going to make her the slight top selection over Cambier Park in here. Problem with Raimundo's Secret, who's been very good in her 2 starts, is that I just don't know. She's stepping up, facing tougher, going farther, and she's going to have to deal with other speed. It's a little bit too much to worry about. I think the same for Keeper of the Stars, who if she sits right behind, maybe she can get first jump on some of the deep closers, but I think she's going to get caught up into a pace battle with Raimundo's Secret. Dog Tag comes in, the other Chad Brown runner, who was third in that field of 3. I don't feel like she's a top-tier Brown runner, and she may be just kind of like the B or C Brown horses who came over, so I won't be playing her in most of the exotics. Apache Princess got up for second. Was only beating a neck in the San Clemente. I think with a lot of these California horses too, I don't know how good they are. And I'm in races like this where there's just not a lot of depth, I'm always going to take a longer look at some of the shippers who I feel like have faced tougher. And, so Apache Princess and Sold It. I don't see it. But I could, the 3 horses that you could start talking me into from California are Mucho Unusual, Lady Prance-A-Lot, and Out of Balance. So Mucho Unusual, she was a nice winner from way out of it last time out. 2 back, she sat mid, like just a few lengths off. And then 3 back, she won wire to wire. So she has shown the ability to win in completely different ways in her last couple starts. Mike Smith keeps the faith. She's looking for her 4th win in a row. She's a grade 2 winner. She's already beaten Open Company a couple times. Lady Prance-A-Lot, the 11. She's just in really nice form. You're going to get a good late rally from her. Will her rally be good enough to hold off the likes of Cambier Park or a horse like Hard Legacy, who could be sitting in front of her and get the jump on Lady Prance-A-Lot? Then I have Out of Balance, who, if you're looking for a price to include in your exotics, I think this is the one. She's a stone cold closer, but she should get the trip in here. And if you'll notice, she was not far behind Mucho Unusual, and she was behind Strike at Dawn last time out. She was 10th of 12. She was 8-9 off. She had to move 7+ wide to the top of the lane, widest of all. It was a really good effort from Out of Balance last out. And then on June the 16th, she came rolling late in between horses, and she just missed behind Mucho Unusual. Like any deep closer, she needs a trip. But you're going to get some value on her, and if she's anything in the double digits at over 10-1, she's worth including. Out of Balance, perhaps the price of the race. Wildlife, we talked about, who's in the Lake Placid, cross-entered. You're going to get a nice big turn of foot from her also. Really good in the 2 races she's been on the grass. No knocks except, the running style that might leave her compromised a little bit. And the wide draw. Then you have a wild card in Hidden Message. And she's making her first start in the U.S. She comes in off a win. Callahan and Pratt. And when you don't look at this race and think that there's anyone that's that scary, right? Even Cambier Park, who's a quality filly. And the other shippers, Hard Legacy, who I think is nice, and Dog Tag, who's another Chad Brown. None of them are that scary. Why couldn't a new face like Hidden Message jump up and win this race? Maybe it's the outside draw. She's in good hands with Pratt and Callahan. So I have the 9th race pegged 4 Hard Legacy on top of the 1 Cambier Park on top of the 12 Out of Balance on top of the 14 Hidden Message. Wouldn't talk you off Mucho Unusual or Lady Prance a lot, but I think there's better more pricey options, or if you're just looking for maybe the shorter price key horses, I think it would be Cambier Park. 4, 1, 12, 14 for me in race number 9 at Del Mar. Race 10. And we're just gonna talk about race number 10. No 11. So we'll close things out with the Pacific Classic. War Story from the inside is he's honest and he's going to try hard. And with the rail draw, he should be able to save ground and work out a nice trip for himself. The Monmouth Cup was fine. He has won at 1.5 miles, so he can run all day. The distance isn't a problem for him. I actually have War Story in the 3rd spot in here. I think he has a big chance to sneak into some of the exotics from the rail. The 2, Quip. Does he get the lead in here? There's not a ton of like real big speed. For the Top has some speed. Higher Power might be close, but Draft Pick might be close. There's no real sure that this horse is going to go. And I think it would be in Quip's best interest to go and try to stretch this field out and spread this field out a little bit. I just don't know if the 1.25 miles is what he wants. He sat 2nd. He was just off the hip. And then head-to-head, battling with the leader in the Stephen Foster last time out. He was beaten only a neck, but it was a little bit of a deceiving neck because Seeking the Soul, who beat him, loomed up behind horses, waited, angled around, and was a well-measured neck winner. Pavel is kind of the measuring stick for this field. You know, you look at the field and a lot of people are saying it's not a strong group, which maybe it's not the best, most current informed grade 1 group, but you do have War Story, who's earned $2.8 million. Quip has earned over $1 million. Pavel has earned over $2 million. Seeking the Soul has earned $3.3 million. And then you have Tenfold, who's also coming up on $1 million. So these horses have definitely earned some money. Yeah, I just see Pavel as a measuring stick type. He is a grade 1 winner. He was 3rd in the Suburban last time out. If Seeking the Soul doesn't show up, or if nobody goes out and tries to steal this race on the front end, he could win. For the Top, this looks like a long shot. You don't see Baffert horses that are going to be big prices like this often in graded stakes races, but he led the way in the Cougar the 2nd, but he faded and he was beaten 13 lengths, and I think they'll probably try to get out front with him again. There's not a lot of speed in here. Maybe the cutback will help, but I just don't see him as quite as good as some of the best in here, even if it's not a strong grade 1. Seeking the Soul looks like the standout. He's a grade 1 winner. He is very, very consistent. The major question or knock or concern would be, okay, the 1.25 miles, do you think he can go this far? And when you watch his races, I think you would say yes. Seeking the Soul. The Top selection, I would probably single him in the exotics on the Top. And if he's 3-1, he to me looks like an 8-5 shot in here. Was trying to build a case for Higher Power. He was in the Gold Cup the last time we saw him on the dirt. It was okay. Came out of that race to win, going wire to wire, going a mile on the grass, and then finished 2nd in a turf stakes at 1 mile last out. He just feels kind of like a long shot in here, even with Pratt aboard. So, I mean, you take a positive with Pratt jumping aboard, and there's no monsters in here, so the difference between Higher Power and even the absolute best might not be that much. But the more I look at this race, like, Seeking the Soul is a legitimate older horse. He's probably the one horse in this race that you'd probably be willing to play in the Breeders' Cup Classic or in other really, really top-tier graded stakes races. Tenfold is just a little too inconsistent for me. You never really know what we're going to get from him. And so he's tough to play unless he floats up. Like if you're like around 10-1, I don't mind including Tenfold in some of your exotics. Campaign, it feels like he's going to be going. It feels like he wants to go a little bit farther, right? And he can run all day long. And his victories have been at 1.5 miles on the grass, 1 mile and 5/16 on the grass, 1.5 miles, 1.5 miles, and then 1 1/16 mile on the slop, where he came from the clouds to just get up. So he would need the absolute, like, perfect type of trip, things to go his way. He will have a little bit of bottom on the cutback. And maybe he starts rolling and gets a little momentum build up. Mongolian Groom. He's been overmatched against Graded Stakes Company. He was second in a small field against Catalina Cruiser last time out, which I don't think people felt was a very strong renewal of the San Diego. Catalina Cruiser is not going to go here. I don't think the connections felt like he was a true 1.25 mile horse. And then Draft Pick, who at the very least has some tactical speed and could put himself in striking range. But is he quite good enough to do that, going 1.25 miles and hold off a horse like Seeking the Soul? I don't think so. I have this race pegged 5, Seeking the Soul, over the 2, Quip, the 1, War Story, and the 6, Higher Power, as just wild cards to maybe use underneath in some of the exotics. I'm not really against Campaign or Tenfold, but I'm not really high on either one of them. To me, this feels like Seeking the Soul is an absolute standout. And there's your Del Mar for Saturday. Up next, interview time. I had a nice conversation with Brian Monzo and Darin Zoccali. We talked about, actually, we did talk some horse racing in there, so pay attention at the very beginning. There is some Saratoga discussion. And then we talk about WWE SummerSlam. We talk about everything that's happening in the world of wrestling, the current storylines going on, a little Mets, a little Yankees, and a nice hour-long conversation or so with Brian Monzo and Darin Zoccali. So that is coming up next.
Here with our first 3-way interview on That's What G Said podcast. Very excited about this one. A couple good buddies of mine and these two gentlemen. We can really talk about everything in the world of sports. But I think for the most part, the thing that brings the three of us together is our love for horse racing and our love for wrestling. Very happy to first introduce Brian Monzo, producer at WFAN. You know him from the Mike Francesa show, the Mike's On app, the Mac and the Mons podcast, from horse racing, wrestling. You'll hear him talk about the Rangers and the Mets on Twitter also. Monzo, what's going on, buddy?
Hey there. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us today. And then
I would only download this app for you.
I know. I appreciate it. You got on the Skype app for me. Thank you. And then DZ, Darin Zoccali, you follow him online on Twitter at the Track 7, track announcer, handicapper. He was the main man at the Meadowlands, probably the best on-track handicapper / jack of all trades I've known at any racetrack. Currently working for CDI. Great follow. Gives out tons of horses on big racing days. And I think we all have different opinions when it comes to horse racing. We all have different opinions when it comes to wrestling. But I think we can all agree on one thing. Is Brad Thomas the greatest handicapper out there?
Oh, it's not even close. It's not even close. In fact, you can have a debate about who's number 2, but no, it's Brad, and it's about Secretariat Belmont lengths back to whoever's second.
Yeah, I talk to Brad just about every day now, and I can honestly keep him on the phone for about 2 hours if he lets me.
It's funny because as handicappers, we all have our egos, and we all think we're the best, and we all think every race we can break down, and we can do it better than anyone. And he is one person that I am always just okay with kind of sitting back and eating some popcorn and just listening. Just like you said, Brian, like the preview show that they do, and anytime I ever had the opportunity to interact with him when I was working at TVG or the few times I went out to Monmouth, he is awesome. So for all of you out there who are aspiring horse players and handicappers, follow Brad Thomas, Shades Off on Twitter, or if you just watch the Monmouth track feed, you'll see him. And that's kind of – I like to use him to show people, hey, handicapping is not easy. And if you're not, putting in the type of effort or at least trying to get to the place where someone like Brad is, you're probably not going to be successful.
Well, you know what? I've learned a lot about Brad, and I'm not sure there's anybody on earth that's willing to put the effort in to everyday handicapping like he does. Like the amount of races he watches, I think most normal handicappers, people like myself, would literally go nuts. But he's got the ambition and the love to do it, and that's why he's the best.
Brad Thomas is the man. So we'll talk. Actually, before we get into the wrestling part, let's talk a little bit about this weekend's card. I was a week off when I texted you guys earlier in the week and said, "Oh, let's talk about the Travers this week." It's actually next week. So at Saratoga,
I would have given you game winner, but now he's out. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's unfortunate, and we do have a couple of good races at Saratoga this weekend, and just overall. Your thoughts before we get into some of the Saturday race at Saratoga. It's pretty unbelievable what we're seeing right now from Chad Brown. And in just a few years, the overall dominance, what we saw from him last weekend at Arlington Park, and now what we're seeing from him again at Saratoga, he's basically like rendered Todd Pletcher like to just an average trainer again. It's pretty incredible, Darin, like what we're seeing with Chad over there. Have you seen anything like this before?
No, I mean, it's on the big scale, like to compare it to what I used to see at the Meadowlands and harness racing, it's kind of been like Jimmy Takter with 3-year-old trotters like the last few years where, you go into the Hambletonian and he'd have like the top 3 or top 4 contenders. I mean, I still remember when he won his first Breeders' Cup race with Maram, and like everybody just kind of knew that he was like the old assistant to Bobby Frankel. But I tweeted a few months ago that it's not going to be long before there's a grade 1 race, on the turf somewhere where Chad literally has the entire field. And then, like, I think a couple of weeks ago, there was a race that got scratched down to, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 horses, but the whole field, it was a grade 3 race on the turf at Saratoga, and the whole field was Chad Brown. So, it's almost getting to a point, Gino, where you can make the argument that it's almost unhealthy for racing for him to be just dominating one particular, group of races, whether it be males on the turf or females on the turf. But that being said, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, when we discuss the races this weekend and we take a look at there's a couple of stakes races on Saturday, and the Lake Placid is the grade 2 that's going to go as race number 9. I mean, every race you look at, you look at the 2 graded stakes races this weekend, Chad's going to have Blowout and Regal Glory. They're not even, any of his top tier 3-year-olds. They're both going to be really tough in there. And then you turn the page to race number 10, which is the Alabama. He's going to have Dunbar Road from the rail. And if she wins, she might stamp herself as the second best 3-year-old filly out there behind his other 3-year-old filly, Guarana, who's probably number 1. It is pretty crazy because even when you look on a weekend like this, like, he had all of his big guns fire last weekend. This is when you're supposed to have like a quiet weekend after you just won the Arlington Million, the Secretariat, and the Beverly D again. So it is pretty incredible. Did you take a look at the Lake Placid at all, Brian, or the Alabama? Did you have any thoughts on the Saturday card at Saratoga?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the odds out yet. I mean, I can look and assume who's the favorites. And you talk about Chad, and the one thing I've noticed, I mean, the last couple of years, when you thought of Chad Brown, you obviously thought, turf horses. But he's unleashed this, squad of young fillies now.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden now he just had, Royal Charlotte a few weeks ago. He didn't win her last race, but he has so many now with Dunbar Road and Guyana. It's insane now that he has a new stock of horses that he's unleashing. It's scary. And as Darin said, I can see how it can become a little bit of an issue moving forward in the racing world. But as far as the races this weekend, look, it's been a little tough for me to, just because I was away, to really, give a really honest look. But I certainly did take a glance, and I always do because, I'm insane. But as far as the Lake Placid goes, I think Varenka is going to be very tough to beat. She's coming off a really good race at Saratoga last out in the optional claiming race. Went 5 wide in that race, beating a really good catch a bid. So if anybody can beat the Chad Brown horses, Varenka for Grand Motion to me is possibly the one. But, we talked about Blowout, and we talked about Regal Glory, who's coming off some solid wins. Chad's just got a bunch of them, and I make the mistake of still trying to beat him, and I end up being a loser.
Yeah, I think you're onto the right horse, or one of the right couple, if we're trying to beat Varenka, because I did like what I saw from her last time out. Darin, what are your thoughts on this Lake Placid?
Yeah, my only issue with Varenka is that she could be, pace compromised there in the short field. There's not a ton of speed in there.
Yeah.
Chad's got the one filly that's going to be rolling along on the front end. And then you're going to have Regal Glory just probably stalking right outside her. And, they might just do the similar 1-2 finish that they did in the Lake George here. If you're looking for a price horse, maybe Feel Glorious can rebound. I'm not sure why she didn't fire her best shot last time out at Belmont, but I thought her effort 2 starts back in the Soaring Softly was solid. I always respect Clement on the grass here. She's a nice filly. She'll probably be 5-1, 6-1 here in this spot because the other 3 are going to take the lion's share of the money. But I think Varenka just could be up against it from a trip standpoint, and the fact that she might not get enough pace to run that in the spot.
Yeah, the problem I had with Blowout was just, that was a field of 3. She's never going to get an easier spot and an easier lead than that. And she just couldn't hold off her stablemate Regal Glory, who probably will sit a similar trip. So of the Browns, I obviously prefer Regal Glory. And then I think I'm kind of with the both of you. I would be kind of cold on Blowout in this spot, and I would give looks to Varenka and Feel Glorious if you're taking a shot against the Chads. And I kind of like what you said last time out, Darin. I thought Feel Glorious, she settled a little bit off, and you could tell she was just kind of taken back a little bit last time out. I really like that May 18th race. That was a really good effort. Seemed like she wanted to go, and I think she should have won that race, and she probably would have been, have won 3 in a row heading into her last start, where kind of Blowout was able to just kind of cruise on the lead when she was taken back. So I think we've sniffed out all the contenders here in the Lake Placid, and obviously the Chad Browns are going to take money, but keep an eye on Feel Glorious if she floats up, and if Varenka isn't getting hit hard, if she's around 7-2, that might be a nice price for a horse who can save ground and come rolling. Let's go to the Alabama, 1.25 miles for the 3-year-old filly. So that's kind of what the difference with this race is versus a lot of the other 3-year-old filly races. Which of these 3-year-old fillies can get this 1.25 mile distance? Brian, when you look at this field, you mentioned the Chad Brown success now with these 3-year-old fillies, and I know one of the best 3-year-old fillies right now is Dunbar Road. If she wins this race, she's going to be right up there with Guarana for top 3-year-old fillies. How do you look at this field, Brian?
Yeah, you know what? I haven't been blown away by Dunbar Road.
No.
And I'm sure the odds are going to be way short on her. The other horse, obviously, is Point of Honor that people are going to look at in this race as one of the big ones. But again, I thought Point of Honor had every opportunity to get by Guarana, who looked like she was getting a little tired in her last at Saratoga. The horse I ended up on, and look, again, I don't have the odds in front of me, so if they're out, I apologize. I'm going to be really interested in Lady Apple this race. I love Asmussen and Santana together. They've run well at the track. They run well together. I think Santana is becoming one of the better jocks in the country. I think she has a big chance. I think she might actually try to go to the lead and try and wire this field. We'll see. But I think obviously the curling's not going to hurt 1.25 miles at all. I think Lady Apple has a big chance and is going to be probably my top pick in this race. Coming off some solid workouts at Saratoga, been training really, really well, really consistent. Was running grade 1s. I'm going to throw away the Kentucky Oaks because that was such a weird race. There was a ton of speed in that race, and nobody wanted to lead except for the eventual winner, Serengeti Empress. So Lady Apple for me is going to be a top pick for me, and I think hopefully maybe if you get higher than 3-1, I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah, she's probably going to be around 5 or 6. I think she's 6 on the morning line. So yeah, and I think this is a sneaky for a field and a group of fillies that hasn't maybe been that fast, or maybe they've been a little bit more late developing. This is actually a pretty solid group when you look from top to bottom. You have Dunbar Road, who's a grade 2 winner. Lady Apple is a multiple graded stakes winner. You have Champagne Anyone, who's a grade 2 winner. And the thing about Champagne Anyone, she actually was in almost an identical spot in the Gulfstream Park Oaks when she was in the same race with Dunbar Road and Point of Honor when they took all the money, and Champagne Anyone actually jumped up and won that race at 7-1. She's kind of interesting in here. You have
I know
Street
that because I betted that race.
Yeah, because she sat really close that day. You have Street Band, who's a multiple graded stakes winner. Eulaley's multiple graded stakes place. Point of Honor is a grade 2 winner. This is not a bad group at all, Darin. For a group of 3-year-old fillies that isn't strong, we actually have a decent field lined up for this grade 1.
Yeah, definitely. I actually am glad with the presence of Dunbar Road here because I really like Point of Honor in here, and I think I look at it this way. Guarana is obviously the best 3-year-old filly I think that we've seen, and she's within a length of her in that last race. So, just using that logic and now getting away from that filly in this spot, I think Dunbar Road's talented, but I don't think she's faced anything close to as good as Point of Honor at this point. And, I took a long look at Lady Apple as well, but the image I can't get out of my head is the fact that I thought she was just really tired at the end of the Kentucky Oaks going a mile and an eighth. And I think a mile and an eighth might be pushing her distance. I know she's a curling, but just using the eye test and what I've seen, I think a mile and a quarter might be just a little bit outside of her scope. Whereas I actually think Point of Honor might get a leg up on these fillies going a mile and a quarter, just based on the pedigree. I'm not sure that she was exactly tired in that last race. I think she was just chasing an amazingly talented filly. And if she runs, within one length of Guarana in this race, I think she wins. And again, I think the presence of Dunbar Road is only going to help her price.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of a little cold on Dunbar Road in this spot, at least from, maybe playing against on the win end. There are a couple other ways you can go. Lady Apple, as Brian mentioned, Point of Honor, as Darin mentioned. I think if you're looking for maybe a little bit more on the price spectrum, I think I kind of feel the same way with Champagne Anyone. I think she's going to show a lot better because she actually ran pretty well last out, deceivingly well. She was trying to press Guarana early on, and she sat behind. She moved right up. She took a couple shots at her, and then she faded and tired. And so she might have been, third best in that race. And then even the horse who was third in that race, Off Topic, I don't know if Off Topic is good enough to win, but she's kind of a grinder who can just keep grinding. She might be good for the bottom of some of your exotics to flop in there. So that's this weekend at Saratoga, a couple of the graded stakes races in races 9 and race 10. Now, one quick thought before we get into SummerSlam. Monzo, the Mets, man. The Mets were awful this year. They were one of the worst teams in baseball. I saw you kind of making some jokes and laughing at the beginning about some of the lineup, Nimmo, and they had some struggles early on. But this team is playing some good baseball right now. We laughed at what they did at the trade deadline. They're kind of right in the mix. They're fun to watch right now.
Yeah, they had the crazy run, 14-15. But the last couple games, that bullpen has come to bid them, and the manager has come to bid them. Last night, in Atlanta, taking Steven Matz out after 79 pitches. It's just a very odd decision. I understand that Seth Lugo's been good, but now they're on a 3-game losing streak, and being a Met fan, you expect the worst. So I do have a feeling that unfortunately we may have missed. We may have already seen the best, and unfortunately, moving forward, I think the spin is about to happen of all the negativity. But that's the life of a Met fan. It goes up, it goes down. And now it's going down again. And
then across town, you got the Yankees and DZ. The Yankees are a really good baseball team this year, Darin. It's been impressive how they've been able to, build up such a good record, even with all the injuries they've faced. But I think the Yankees are kind of sitting in a spot that the Dodgers are sitting in, where the fan base is kind of going, okay, let's get to the playoffs and let's see if our weaknesses are going to really be there. And I think for the Yankees, it's probably the starting pitching. For the Dodgers, it's probably the bullpen. How do you feel about this Yankee team, about 6 weeks out from the playoffs?
It's such a weird season because the fact that they're 40 games over 500, where they really haven't had a completely healthy team all season, is pretty remarkable. Their ace has been out all season. Giancarlo Stanton, I think, has played a combined 5 games all season. Aaron Hicks is back on the DL. Judge is not hitting at all right now. I mean, which is even, more incredible. That Stanton's been gone. Judge is not hitting. Sanchez was on the IL for, 2.5, 3 weeks recently. So, yeah, I mean, they're an incredibly talented offensive team. I think when you are short on starting pitching, that always rears its head in the playoffs. I am terrified of facing Houston and facing, Cole and Verlander and now Greinke. And I'm even afraid of now facing what is a revamped Cleveland Indian team that has starting pitching. I don't know if Carrasco is going to come back from his leukemia fight and pitch this year, but still with Kluber, probably coming back before the playoffs and having Trevor Bauer and Jose Ramirez is now hitting the cover off the ball again. That's a very dangerous team as well. So with the Yankees, it's hold your breath, hope everybody gets healthy, hope Severino comes back in September and looks like himself for the playoffs, and maybe find a way to squeak by those teams. But my fear is that this team is built to just dominate in the regular season, win 107 games, and then they're going to get to the playoffs and face, rock solid pitching and strike out 18 times a game again.
We'll get more to baseball in just a few weeks, but it's starting to get fun now, and I kind of agree with what you're saying, Darin. We're starting to see these top teams really take shape. Like, even as a Dodger fan, I'm looking at a Braves team that's built pretty well. I'm looking at a Nationals team that would be really tough to face in a short series with their pitching. I'm looking at a Cardinals team that's been a really well-built team, and they're finally starting to get into the swing of things. So, yeah, I think the cream is starting to rise now in baseball. We're starting to see these top teams separating themselves and what looks like a nice playoffs getting set up. Now, let's get into wrestling. We had SummerSlam this past weekend. I thought it was a pretty solid show from top to bottom. There really wasn't any, unbelievable standout, maybe match of the year, but there really wasn't anything too negative. It was pretty solid throughout. Let's kind of hit on what happened, and then we can touch on how that has kind of developed throughout the week with Raw and SmackDown. Early on, won't touch too much on this cruiserweight match. It was Oney Lorcan versus Drew Gulak. The only one thing I'll say about 205 Live and the cruiserweights is I wish they would just drop the live aspect of it, and I wish they would film this show in Full Sail with NXT. I feel like these guys would get such a better reaction because this match, this Drew Gulak versus Oney Lorcan, if this match was filmed in front of Full Sail and the NXT crowd, they'd be really hot for it. But when you put it at the beginning of a long pay-per-view or at the beginning of a 3.5 or 4 hour Tuesday or SmackDown taping night, these guys just don't get a whole good response from the crowd. But there's talent in this division. We've just seen Cedric and Buddy Alexander and Ali come up, and these guys can go.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Oh, go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say, unfortunately, when you get these fans in these big arenas, I just think there's a limited amount of people who lock into 205 and NXT. And when you get, these shows, WrestleMania and SummerSlam, and like you said, they're longer events, they just don't know what they're looking at. And I don't think they have an appreciation for it. And I think when you see guys like Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander really perform, and Ali for that matter, on the main roster and really do some. Look, Buddy Murphy gave Roman maybe one of his best matches ever on SmackDown this week. I think that's when the fans will have a greater appreciation for it. Unfortunately, when they're going against the guys they know and not going against each other.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Regarding Buddy Murphy, all you had to do was watch his match with Roman on Tuesday. That was a fun and exciting match to watch. And those two guys played very well off each other. And everybody came out of that match saying, wow, that's a rivalry I would love to see. And it's such a shame because the cruiserweight matches are really good and they're exciting and they're fun. And those guys do some things that just blow your mind. But they're I don't want to say that they're set up to fail, Gino, but they're just not put in a great spot to succeed the way that they have things scheduled. And I think you could be onto something if you kind of move those tapings to Wednesday night and had them play off an NXT crowd that 100% would appreciate them so much more.
Yeah, and that kind of will lead right into the next match on the pre-show, on the kickoff show, which was more than a match. It was more of just an angle to keep the whole Buddy Murphy involved with Roman Reigns stuff going on. And we saw Rowan attack Buddy Murphy after. But as you guys mentioned, we had two matches this weekend on WWE TV. First, on Monday night, we got a match between Cedric Alexander and Drew McIntyre that was really, really good. I think people forget when they see Drew out there playing the heel shtick how much he can really go in the ring. And just like we were talking about with Buddy Murphy, Cedric Alexander is almost on that level. He can absolutely go. I was really happy to see both of those matches because I felt coming out of this week, the one thing I liked coming out of SummerSlam and after, Raw and SmackDown this week, I felt like heading into, the King of the Ring next week and just, moving forward with the storylines and going on to Fox, it feels like there are a lot of guys right now that they're starting to heat up. Maybe 8 or 10 or even 12 that are getting wins or that are kind of getting some TV time that they haven't been recently. So what did you think of this week with those matches, Darin?
Yeah, I agree, and it's kind of one of the things that came out of SummerSlam, and I think I texted you this, and it kind of played to the fact, like you're speaking, that they have these guys that are getting some new TV time. You take a look back at SummerSlam, and while overall I agree with you, I thought it was a very good show. Look at the guys that were not involved. There was no Roman, there was no Braun Strowman, there was no Drew McIntyre, there was no Samoa Joe, there was no Intercontinental title match in Shinsuke Nakamura because they just have so many guys right now that can go. And it's great to see some of those guys get some TV time, albeit it's a little bit weird to not see some of these big-time guys on the main roster, getting their time on what would be the second or third biggest pay-per-view of the year. So WWE is in an interesting place right now that they have so much talent, probably more than they know what to do with. And you have these guys that heat up and then cool off and heat up and cool off. It's almost like they don't have enough hours in the week to push as many guys as they need to push. So I hope that these guys that are getting new TV time, we can kind of see that prolonged and move forward. But I'm just concerned that they have so much talent out there that they're just going to run out of airtime for everybody.
And the other thing that we haven't mentioned is that, they split the airtime now with the women. So you're not just dealing with, an endless solid male roster. You have a relatively deep women's roster, and they have to, honestly, because they deserve it, they have to give them the opportunity to shine on these big shows. And that, the show can't be 12 hours. So you got to get everybody in there. And if, unfortunately, for Samoa Joe, who I think is awesome and deserves a big push, or a Shinsuke Nakamura, who is the IC champion, or even Roman, if they don't have anything for him, they're not going to force him on the show now because there's so much, storylines and guys and girls that deserve the opportunity to be there, especially if there's something for them right there. Maybe at some point you were talking about, separating the 205, making that maybe they end up separating the male and female division and the females get their own show.
I was hearing something about that too, because it's finally starting to get to the point where, as you mentioned, there's so much talent in this female roster. I mean, we have a women's tag team titles match that was the last match on the pre-show, and then you had the Iconics versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. I mean, in just the 4-way that they had on Raw before SummerSlam, you add in Asuka and Kairi Sane. I mean, those two women could be in any women's title feud immediately. They are extremely talented. Kairi Sane too. She's never really gotten her shot yet. Asuka, I mean, she was beating and tapping Becky Lynch out at the Royal Rumble earlier this year before Becky went on her big run and beat Ronda Rousey. So even Charlotte, she's not in the title mix at all right now, and she's having matches with Trish because she has that clout. So this is just a really deep roster of the women in particular, and I at least like the fact that Alexa and Nikki, if they're the champs, then at least we're going to get some more tag title matches, and maybe we'll get to see these women's tag titles a little bit more, because for a while they were on the Iconics, who I love, but we just didn't get to see them on TV a ton.
Yeah, the Iconics had a very weird title reign in that they won the titles and then kind of just did some like vignettes and backstage stuff, and you never really saw them in the ring. So it was a very strange, if you were going to put the belts on them and try to give them a push, it was a strange way to do it because they never really defended them. So, but I totally agree. I mean, Asuka's in a tag team, and last year, her versus Charlotte at WrestleMania was one of the matches of the night. Yes, I mean, you have not only a loaded men's roster, but you have a loaded female roster that you saw in the pay-per-view Evolution last year that, they can go themselves. And maybe you're right. Maybe it is time to give them their own show. Maybe it doesn't have to be on cable. Maybe it'll, stream on the WWE network like NXT. But maybe we're at that point. But at the same time, I could see the problem where if you go to a Raw taping, you want to see Becky Lynch.
Sure.
So, they do run into that issue as well, where if you take the women have gotten to a point so much where if you take them off of Raw or SmackDown, there are going to be people that are disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
So, you kind of have to deal with that also.
Yeah, and Brian, we'll get into the first match of the night at SummerSlam, and it was Natty versus Becky Lynch. I mean, Becky has had this, it was really last year at SummerSlam when the real crazy run for Becky Lynch started, and she has been one of the top stars in WWE all throughout the year. She main evented WrestleMania. She's been the champ multiple times, and she had a great match to kick off the night. Like, they're putting her at the beginning of the night because they know this was going to be a hot match with a hot crowd for Natty, who is from Canada. I thought it was a really good match for both women who can really go in the ring.
Yeah, I thought the match itself in the ring did everything they wanted it to do. I think the reaction from the crowd was everything they didn't expect.
Yeah.
Because I think they thought that was almost going to be Canadian Stampede-like, where you have the home, she's not even home. She's more Calgary than Toronto, but, you have the Canadian, and they take a lot of pride in that. She comes out with the flag, and they step into the ring, and there's Becky chance. So, I mean, I just think that aspect is backfired a little bit. To me, Natty's a heel. She always works better as a heel. She really played. They kind of like tweenered both of them in this match, but the match itself was good. I don't think the reaction got what they expected. If they got a pro Canada, the crowd was behind her, and then Becky was getting all the heat, and eventually got her to tap out, I think it would have been a lot better. But as far as the quality of the ring, they both can go. They're both, can sell. I love the fact they both use each other's finishers. It was a good match. I just think that the crowd it backfired on what they expected to happen, because you got that with Trish, and Charlotte. You got the Canada and Trish in her last match, or very likely her last match ever. You got that crowd reaction, but you didn't get that with this match. I thought they were going to pop very big for Natty, and it was kind of blah. And then when Becky came out first, it was pro Becky. So I think that aspect, but just goes to show how hot she is right now. I mean, and I think she's going to, and if we want to talk about this, I think she's going to have some competition now with Sasha, because I think the crowd's going to get behind her now with what she did Monday. So it's right now, to me, the women's division is super strong. It's very entertaining, and that match, was just a very simple example of how well they're doing.
Yeah, and Darin, what I liked about Becky is, I think you and I were talking a little bit about this, all the stuff after WrestleMania with Seth Rollins and Becky and Lacey and Baron Corbin, and the whole putting Seth and Becky together and acknowledging them as, being in a relationship. I don't think that did good for either Seth or for Becky. I think both of them were organically really over and really hot, and they were kind of over because, Becky was a badass, and because of Seth's really good work in the ring, and that's why people were getting behind them. So when you added this other storyline in it with them and the love and the relationship, I don't think it was the right time. And I'm glad that it seems like both Seth and Becky were able to kind of get through it, because they both seem to be pretty strong on Monday. And I love where they're going now with, Becky and Sasha, with Seth and maybe AJ or Braun or whoever. But let's stick with the Becky and Sasha first. What do you think about everything that happened on Monday night?
I mean, it was exciting to see Sasha come out. The taking off of the purple hair, I guess, was synonymous with, her change of character. I mean, it was cool. I would have liked to have maybe seen them wait a little bit to heat up Sasha and Becky.
Sure.
Because now you've kind of just got past SummerSlam. I know you got, Hell in a Cell coming up in Survivor Series, but I would have liked there have been to a build and maybe, get them together Royal Rumble WrestleMania season, rather than heating them up the night after SummerSlam. Like, okay, we're diving right into this. I think sometimes WWE pulls the trigger a little too quickly on good ideas, and the good idea becomes an okay idea because of how fast you heat it up. And I think that might happen with Sasha and Becky. And I think they also misread, like we were talking about, how the reaction to Becky and Becky opponents are going to be. They probably think now, all right, well, they turned Sasha into this big heel, and they're going to get this monster push now, behind Becky. And what's going to end up happening is that you're going to get the push behind Sasha, and it's going to kind of be like, the opposite of Becky at SummerSlam last year, where they thought they were turning Becky heel, and that blew up in their face. So it's kind of weird. I feel like they never read the reaction to Becky the way it actually is.
I know. They're a little bit off, or maybe they try to force things a little bit, and the timing is a good point. Is a really good point of it. We've seen a sort of character change for Dolph Ziggler, where he's kind of this. I heard somebody mention the Will Ferrell character in Austin Powers that just keeps, no, I'm okay, I fell off the cliff, no, I'm not dead yet, but I am dying. That's kind of the Dolph Ziggler character right now, is he just keeps getting his ass kicked, but he keeps calling out the person who kicked his ass. That was the case with this Goldberg match, which was really funny how quickly this match kind of developed. On paper, we're scratching our heads going, really, Goldberg versus Ziggler? I was wondering how they were going to do this. They gave Ziggler a big super kick right off the bat to kind of give you a little bit of doubt and think, wow, maybe they're going to play this Goldberg is done angle. Not the case. Goldberg squashed him. And Ziggler, for whether you love him or not, man, this guy can sell. He made those spears look like they just crushed him and broke him in half. And then we saw Ziggler out on Monday Night Raw with The Miz. Brian, what did you think of all this Ziggler, Goldberg, and Miz stuff, with Shawn Michaels even in the mix too?
I think a lot of this had to do with getting the feel of Super Showdown off of Goldberg and The Undertaker. I think it's the only reason why The Undertaker was involved in Extreme Rules. That's why he performed extremely well at Extreme Rules. He looked good. He did all the Undertaker things, and they talked about how good he looked. I think they had to do the same thing here with Goldberg. I don't think they had to. I think they felt the need to. I wouldn't have cared less if they did or didn't. To me, I had a problem with Goldberg kicking out at twice on a super kick.
Yeah.
I thought they look. Dolph's obviously a company guy. He's done it for a long time. He's put people over left and right. It's Goldberg, I understand. But to me, to make Goldberg look like invincible and to make Dolph look like, a pinky it was a little silly to me. The stuff after, I understand it was funny. To me, it did no favors to Dolph. I don't think he deserved it. There was part of me that was really rooting for Dolph in this match, knowing it was impossible for him to win. But I like the 2 super kicks. Can you sell them a little bit more than he did? That was my issue with it.
Yeah, what did you think about all this stuff, DZ?
Yeah, I didn't love it. I mean, I get the point. Like Brian said, it was obvious that they just wanted to get the stench of Super Showdown off of Goldberg, which is fine. But Dolph is one of the best guys they have in the ring. I mean, the stuff that he does, not only athletically, but the way he sells. I mean, he's just phenomenal. And in my opinion, for so long, he's just so underutilized, and I think just wrong. The way they use him is just completely wrong. And kicking out at the 1 off the super kicks, and then making Dolph now 2 straight nights get on the microphone and basically begging people to come back and beat him up. I'm a huge Dolph guy. It's not because we share the same initials. I just think he's really good, and I would like him to at some point. I know they pay him a lot of money and he's got a sweet deal, and I get all that. But I would like him at some point to get pushed into some kind of a scenario where he's back to at least close to main event status, because the guy is just so damn good in the ring, and he doesn't deserve to be the victim of a squash by Goldberg just so that Goldberg feels better, after that Undertaker disaster at Super Showdown.
He reminds me a lot of kind of how Cody Rhodes was towards the end of his WWE run. I just feel like Dolph is the type of guy who, if he were to go somewhere else, I mean, if he went to like AEW or Japan, he would be a main event talent immediately, and they would love him, and he would have incredible matches. And I just feel like he's been like at the bottom of the booking so many times that people just have a tough time getting behind him now. So I'm with you. I hope we can get some kind of a tweak to him, because I've always been such a Dolph fan. He's so good in the ring. He obviously cares. He obviously wants it. He gives it all for the fans. So I love that. And the next 2 guys also do the same that we saw in the U.S. title match, Ricochet versus AJ Styles, 2 of the best workers in the company. This was a solid match, but it was more telling a story. We didn't quite get to that next level match that these 2 can have, but it feels like this is kind of continuing on a little bit. We saw Ricochet come out and get involved after the main event on Monday Night Raw. So I'd imagine that next week we're going to have some sort of a AJ Styles, Gallows, and Anderson versus Ricochet, Rollins, and Braun Strowman. What'd you think of all this with the U.S. title and Ricochet and AJ, Monzo?
Well, as far as the match itself, it was okay. And unfortunately, I think they'll tell you the same thing, both of them. My feeling is like, before they go out there, they meet with Vince, and Vince is like, all that stuff you saw on NXT that the crowd likes, do the opposite.
I know, right?
It's a little,
like, somebody's got to tell them to like tone it down. Or they're like, okay, on a 1 to 10 scale, give us like a 3, because these guys have more.
And I honestly feel that Vince is concerned about injury. I think he doesn't want these guys to get hurt. When they do, a lot of the stuff they do, there's risk of injury. I mean, anytime Ricochet leaps over all the ropes and lands, he could twist an ankle, he could land on the back of his head. I mean, as good as these guys are, accidents happen, and I think that's one of the concerns. We haven't seen the Muscle Buster since what's his name got hurt. Natty's husband got hurt. So I mean, there's so much risk in some of these guys. So to me, that hurt the match a little bit. And I'll be honest with you, I love factions, and I love the OC. I love what they're doing with them. I love the look. I love how they're bringing back, the New Japan style and as heels. I love it, but it's been the same story with Ricochet now for 2 months. They come out, they have a match, they attack him after, and nothing ever happens. Now, maybe we got a little bit of a progression to that story on Monday night with the Braun Strowman stuff and having Seth involved. But, I think that's going to eventually – I think Ricochet is now out of that story, and I think we're going to get Braun and AJ for a while. I don't think that angle is going to have anything to do with Seth or Ricochet at this point. I think – what I was hoping was going to happen after the match, when they went back into the ring, I thought they were going to try and invite Ricochet into the OC, which I think would have been awesome. Yeah. That would have been tremendous. But it didn't go that way, and it was just the same thing. They hit him with their finisher, and that's the end of the match. And AJ retains the title, which is cool. But to me, the ending and the end of that story really.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Darin, it was a really strong SummerSlam card, even when you had a guy like Braun Strowman not on the card, but we saw Braun Strowman back in the mix on Monday night. He was another character that we were talking about, kind of similar to Becky and to Seth. He was so over and hot on his own, and WWE really cooled him down for a while. Maybe just being off TV for a few weeks can get him kind of back to the level he was, because he was the hottest thing in wrestling for a while, when he was coming out every week and turning cars over and raising hell. And the crowd really likes this guy.
They do. I thought it was strange that Strowman was whatever they have planned going forward, but to have Strowman come out to help Seth and Ricochet was, I don't know, just weird to me. I mean, how long did Braun as a heel feud with the Shield, and him and Seth had battles and stuff, and now he just kind of comes out to help Seth for whatever reason. I don't really know why. I'm sure we'll find out why. But that just kind of felt weird to me. I did think the power slam, the first power slam that he hit on AJ was sick. The way that it all kind of came together. But the other thing with Strowman that I don't get, I still think they got to give this guy some other kind of finisher, than a running power slam. I don't know what they can come up with, but any kind of version of a crazy choke slam or power bomb or something. Just the British Bulldog running power slam
doesn't do it for
2019 just doesn't do much for me.
No.
Hey, I just thought it was strange, to be honest with you. I really did. I thought it was weird that Strowman came out. I figured Roman was going to come out at that point.
That's the one we keep looking. Like every time there's something involved with Seth, I'm expecting Roman, but there has to be purposely separating them.
Yeah, they are, and it's so strange because like for how many years, anytime Seth would get beat up, Roman is there to save him, and now all of a sudden, Lesnar, who Roman has had issues with for years,
he would make the most sense.
Just destroying Rollins, like nearly killing the guy, and Roman's just chilling in the locker room,
no big deal,
not doing anything. It's just stuff like that just drives me crazy because it doesn't make sense.
And hopefully we'll see going forward if we're going to get AJ Rollins, or if it's going to be Braun in the mix with Rollins. Something I heard. I just don't want to get Braun back into another title match that he's going to lose. I don't think that does him any good. So I'd like to keep him separated, or maybe they go in a different direction. Maybe they do some kind of a tag, but the next pay-per-view is Clash of the Champions, so I'd imagine they'll be defending that Universal title. SmackDown women's title match, this was the one that kind of was the big miss for me throughout the night. I predicted a couple months ago that Bayley was going to win that title, and they just haven't done much with her since she's won the title. They haven't really got behind her a whole lot, and this kind of was a weird build, and it was just not a very good match. I didn't see a lot of chemistry. I like Ember Moon. She could go. She had some great matches with Asuka and NXT, but they haven't really figured her out yet on the main roster. And then on Tuesday SmackDown, they have her kind of lose to Charlotte right away. So it almost makes me think that they're kind of shuffling Ember back down the card, and maybe they're going to get Charlotte back up into the title picture. What do you think of what did you think of that SmackDown women's title match, Monzo?
I disagree with you on a lot of what you just said.
Really? Okay, cool.
I thought the fans were the problem with that match, because I thought the match itself was solid. I think they both can go. You might be right, and how they view Ember, especially, but there's never. It's like AJ. It's like Ricochet losing to AJ. There's like never shame in losing to Charlotte. That's just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Trish Stratus just did it. So, to me, I thought the match itself was good. I think they both can work. I would like to see an adjustment to Bayley's character. Maybe a little heelish. They teased that last year when she went off on Sasha, and I thought we were going to get that. We didn't. Instead, we got a reversion of Team Hell No, where they had to go seek help and counseling. But I thought the match itself was good. I've liked Bayley's run now as SmackDown Women's Champion. I like to see where it goes. I was kind of hoping it would be Sasha going after her. I mean, that's obviously the natural fit. They're keeping them away from each other for whatever reason. Maybe they just don't think they can top their NXT Brooklyn match, which they probably can't. But still, I'm not sure how many people that watch every day have seen that match. I understood the crowd was not great for that match, and that was my issue with it. I thought the match itself was solid. Both can go. Big fans of both. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with Bayley next.
Kevin Owens and Shane O'Mac was next up, and Shane's been doing his heel shtick. He's been doing a good job with the heel stuff. He's been on TV a lot as of late, and he's been definitely wearing on you. So I think that means he's doing a good job. We didn't really get the big Shane spot in here. This was more of a kind of letting Owens look like a badass here. They're definitely going a little stone cold with Kevin Owens, whether it be the stunner and the angle with McMahon. Owens was able to win this match after a low blow when the ref wasn't looking. And then we saw the next night on, or a couple nights after on SmackDown, Kevin Owens comes out. He cuts a really good promo. He gets fined. There's a lot of similarities with, Austin McMahon, as we're seeing with KO and Shane right now. But what I liked from Kevin is he cut that promo about the King of the Ring. That was something that I used to love. And he mentioned some of the former winners of the King of the Ring who, when you go through them, they are some of the absolute all-time greats. I'm liking Kevin Owens as a babyface. And I'm hoping they, as we've said, with some of these guys that they're pushing or gals that they're pushing, I hope they continue with it. It'll be really interesting to see how he's booked coming up in this King of the Ring, because he lost a match to Samoa Joe. I know it was a roll up and it was quick. It was part of the shtick. But we didn't see Stone Cold losing a lot of matches back in the day, Darin.
No, in fact, you'd be hard for us to find big matches that he did lose, just off the top of your head. The thing that I think Owens is a phenomenal heel. Just like I think Rollins is 10 times a better heel than a babyface, and we could talk about that later if we have time. But I think he's a phenomenal heel. I think the babyface Owens right now is working because he's just still being himself.
Yeah.
Like he's not like going out there with cheesy lines and trying to get over with the crowd, and he's still being KO, which I think is what's like pushing. Because even when KO was a heel, he would still get pops.
Yeah.
So it's funny because his character really hasn't changed a whole lot.
At all. No.
Yeah. He's still himself. It's just that now WWE has him as a face, and now the reaction kind of goes along with him being a face, which is cool. But I think it works as long as they just let Kevin Owens keep being Kevin Owens. They can't do like the, like how Becky and Ronda and Charlotte got all sideways, in the winter and things kind of got forced and didn't make a lot of sense. And from week to week, there were things that just weren't connecting storylines, and you felt things were being forced and pushed. As long as they let KO keep doing what KO does, I think he could have a huge run, as a heel, as a face that, could potentially even lead to, WrestleMania main event type stuff.
Yeah, what do you think of this version of KO, Brian?
I feel like we might be watching different shows. I worry they're turning Kevin to too much into placating to the crowd, thanking the crowd for, they're the reason why he's doing what he's doing. And, I worry that they're not letting Kevin Owens be the Kevin Owens that we've seen the years past, because that's the KO the crowd likes. The one that goes out, doesn't care what anybody says, isn't slapping fives with the fans, is just doing, going after who he's going after. And, he's still himself a little bit. He's acknowledging his family a little bit too much for me, which that's him naturally. He's a very big family man. But yeah, I just worry that they're going to make him too much of a baby face, like they've kind of done with Seth a little bit here, where he plays to the crowd and, we did this together. It's that, that doesn't sell anymore, man. It's 2019.
Yeah.
So
you have to keep that edge.
So if they let KO be KO and as long as he's going against the McMahon family, but it has the same attitude, it's going to work. I'm worried they're going to have him become too much of the smiling baby face and, what's up to the crowd and, this and that. And that to me is cause for concern. That gets you booed. You're slowly starting to see that happen to Rollins, which I hate to see because I like him a lot. It happened to Daniel Bryan when he got a little stale with the yes stuff. I just hope it doesn't happen to KO.
They don't book baby faces well. And it's been this way for the last couple years. And they were really lucky because they had a John Cena there who could kind of turn a lot of the material, and we've seen John Cena is an amazing performer now, and he's very successful as an actor. But, we've seen guys, it's like they were like this with Roman. They were awful booking him as a babyface. They made him Roman is an incredible athlete and is an incredible performer, and they made people dislike him because the way they booked him and kind of shoved him down your throat. Even Daniel Bryan and, someone like Sami Zayn and Bayley, those should be the easiest baby faces to book. It's so easy, and they just don't really know what what to do with them a lot of the time. Like you say, they turn them into someone that's corny and kind of a parody of themselves, and then people don't like it.
And I think, they've hinted Samoa Joe as a face, and I think he's the one that'll maintain his same attitude and get over as a face, and they won't change him at all. But I see this too often. They do this way too much. You know what? Ambrose never really changed, and that was cool, and that's why he worked really well as a face. But looking at the opposite end of it, is there anybody that cares about the Miz as a face? No, because he's a great heel. There are guys just have to work, how they work and not change their attitude.
Yeah, and with Joe, it's funny because if you notice, like I think it was completely by design. Like they probably watched back the Joe Roman thing in the parking lot, and they probably went, you know what, we didn't really like that. We don't think that's the way Samoa Joe's going to be. So Samoa Joe, the next, he comes out, gets on the microphone, and basically tells the whole crowd to go shove it.
Yeah.
And to me, that was like an impulsive response to WWE reading, whether it be on social media or the internet. Oh no, look what they're going to do to Samoa Joe. They're going to make him, a little cheesy, soft baby face. And the next night, boom, Joe's out there telling the whole crowd to stick it.
Yeah.
As if to say, we're going to stop this right in its tracks.
There are a couple, and hopefully we saw that Joe Owens match, which I would love to see these two guys have an elongated feud, because those are both guys that can go. And I was reading or listening to something. Those are both two guys that, 5 to 10 years ago, Vince would have looked at and said, these guys are never going to be in my ring, and they're never going to be a main event type star. And I love seeing both of them in there kind of towards the top of the mid card and maybe sneaking into the main event scene. We saw Trish Stratus, who, good God, she just looks better and better with age. She looks incredible right now. She is in great shape, physically unbelievable. And Darin, this was a really good match from Trish. And I think one thing you and I discussed a few days ago, this really shows how good Charlotte is, because Trish was good and she was a good worker, and she was the best during her time when the work rate and the work level for the women's matches was just not at a very high standard. And she held her own and did very well in this match against Charlotte. But when you watch the match, you could really see how good Charlotte is with the timing. She helped carry the match. For someone who hasn't been in the ring much in the last few years as Trish, Charlotte made this match come off really, really well and very smooth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, all credit to Trish. Being in a spot like that with Charlotte with extremely limited ring work, over the past several years, and having to go in with what could be arguably the best female wrestler on the planet is a daunting task. And she more than held her own. But again, if you watch that match very closely, even a lot of Trish's offense I don't want to use the word carried, but it's really pushed along a lot by Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte made Trish look really, really good in that match. And, again, all credit to her, because my God, if you have to go into a ring with her, and maybe you have, a couple of hours ring time over the last 18 months, that's incredibly difficult to do. And kudos to her at age 43 for being in the shape that she's in and being able to go for that long with, the best on the planet. But I mean, for that match, I came away from that match saying, really good for Trish. She held her own, but my God, is Charlotte not the best, best female wrestler I've ever seen.
Brian, what do you think?
I do agree with that. I do agree with both of you guys on this one. I thought the match was solid. We got the finish that I think we needed, because if they put Trish over Charlotte, it would have been a big mistake, even though she's playing to the home crowd. Look, Trish showed why. Look, I think, to be honest with you, there was a lot of realism in that match where she honestly wanted to prove to herself, the person, that she can compete with someone like Charlotte, and she did. And like you said, Charlotte probably carried a lot of it, but to me, Charlotte can work with a broomstick and it would look good.
Yeah.
So, she is not just the best female athlete right now in the company. She might be the best athlete in the company. And look, a lot of people love to hate her. I don't know why. I mean, I'm not talking about her, the character. Her overall.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't see the negative at all.
And I have friends here. Evan Roberts, who works at the station, can't stand Charlotte. I don't understand how. To me, she carries that division. Every match is good. Some of the stuff she did with Becky when the Evolution match was great. Another one, though, in my opinion, can't change her character, man. When she comes out and placates to the crowd, it just doesn't work. Even if she's a face, she has to stay the same. And her heel work is tremendous. Look, she's a little corny on the mic. Most of them are, but for the most part, she's awesome, and it got the good outcome. I look for anything she does is good. The match with Ember was solid. Whatever they have for her next, whether it's a title run or, God knows, maybe she'll challenge Brock Lesnar for all we know. But, she's great. And the match itself, to me, was one of the 3 best matches of the night.
Appreciate you guys hanging around. We're going a lot longer than I had asked you for your time, but we're down to the final 3 matches, and we're up to the WWE title match, Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston. We didn't get a finish in here, but I do like what they've done with this match leading up. I think Kofi's run has been a little bit longer and a little bit kind of better than I thought that they would give him the opportunity. And I like that they've gone back to this Orton feud, because this feels like a big moment for Kofi, or maybe a big, like if you're playing video games, one of those big bosses along the way. Can Kofi get past Randy Orton and continue along with this title run? We saw Orton and the Revival take on the New Day in a tag match on SmackDown on Tuesday night. And they actually ended up pinning the New Day, so we'll probably get the Revival against the New Day and another Orton-Kofi match. DZ, what did you think about this Orton and Kofi and everything with this feud?
Well, I'm a little biased here because Randy Orton as a heel is one of my favorite wrestling characters of all time. I don't care if people think it's played out or it's corny. And the reason I love him is because he comes off like such like a tough guy, badass type in real life. That attitude that he brings to the character looks entirely real.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could literally say, like, based
that's
on
him.
His look and how he talks, that's him. And I think that him and that character are completely perfect together. Not to mention that he has the greatest finisher in the history of wrestling, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, you put that all together, and it's one of the best characters I think you've ever seen. And I love the storyline with him and Kofi. I didn't love the finish by any stretch of the imagination, because I didn't even know that the referee was counting when all of a sudden I heard a bell. I was kind of focusing on what Orton was doing, and I'm like, wow, is he going to RKO like Kofi's son right now? Like, what's about to happen? And I had no idea that a ref was even counting. Now, that being said, I would really like this feud to continue where it's going. I like the storyline. I think the two of them, if you let them go all out, can have a really entertaining match together. My feeling is you're probably at some point going to see Randy win, because I do think that when we get to SmackDown at some point that they're going to put that belt on Roman, and they don't want to come anywhere near having Roman take it directly off Kofi. So I think you're going to get kind of a transitional title run from Randy at some point. But I really like what they did here. I think they can have a great match at some point where they just kind of have a clean finish. And I really do like the storyline between the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say much different than Darin on this one. The finish to me was a little too similar to the finish of Joe and AJ last year, where there was no finish to the match. And to me, that should happen at every other pay-per-view except the major ones. But as far as the match itself, to me, Randy Orton, another guy, doesn't work as a face, works great as a heel, unbelievable finisher. Gets over it. I said, I'm not going to say exactly what I said to Darin via text, but he could RKO anybody and get a cheer. So, he could RKO the Pope and the people would react well to it. So the move is so over. Is maybe the last current wrestler who doesn't have to adjust to the Ricochet style of wrestling and have a slow, methodical match and keep my attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's great. And even whether his opponent is down and he's stomping every muscle the guy has, just a slow, methodical match going into that DDT off the second rope, followed by going on the ground like a snake, before the RKO is a little much to me, but the move itself, when he hits it out of nowhere, like they love to say, is tremendous. So to me, I like the rivalry. I've liked Kofi's title run. I like different opponents every month. That's very old school to me. It reminds me of Hogan, actually, where he'd go against different guys every month. But I do agree. At some point, it might not be the first try or the second try. I do think Orton's going to take the title from him. It's an easy transition. So, yeah, I like the rivalry, and I'm happy that they're going to continue it because I think it's good. I like the history, and I think it's good.
Yeah, Orton, the both of you said it. As when he's a heel, he is just so incredible, and a lot of it has to do with what you were just saying, Brian. His match style, his in-ring style. He's able to go slow and methodical, and so when you when you match him up against a Kofi or a good baby face, it's just a great storyline, and it's a great setup. And I like this quite a bit. And I think this is probably the best Orton has been in a while when he's able to get a good heel angle to go after a good baby face. I think we're all kind of the most excited, and everybody in wrestling was really excited about that entrance of The Fiend. We saw The Fiend, Bray Wyatt versus Finn Balor, and with the Firefly Funhouse segments leading up to The Fiend's debut, I think we were all kind of wondering, okay, how are they going to make this transition now? They've done really good backstage segments and some vignettes, but now this guy actually has to wrestle. He has to come out into the ring. What are they going to do? And I mean, I'm thinking about when The Undertaker used to come out and put wrestlers into body bags when I was a kid, like very, very early on. And we're talking early 90s, 90, 91, right when he came in. And it was on WWF Superstars. He would come out with, it was Brother Love at first, and then it was Paul Bearer. He would have the body bag. He would pin someone. He'd put him in the body bag and take him away. I was legitimately scared as a kid for a few years of this guy. And I mean, I showed my mom the Bray Wyatt Fiend entrance with the holding of the severed head and the lantern in the mouth, and she was a little scared. This is not like well done for WWE. This is well done horror in general. Let's start with you, Darin. I mean, what were your overall thoughts of this new Bray Wyatt character?
Well, we talked about this between you and I. Like I said, I thought the overall show was good. I thought that some of the big moments probably made me think that the show was even better than it really was. Like Edge hitting a spear for the first time in 8 years was a huge moment. And then the Bray Wyatt entrance where he's carrying what appears to be his own severed head. And the look on the face of the severed head is like the head saw the girl from The Ring before the head was ripped off. I mean, it was creepy. And, and not only that, the match, to be honest with you, I thought it was going to be a total squash. Balor actually got in a little bit more of an offensive flurry than I thought. And maybe that's good. Maybe it kind of saves Balor a little bit, and doesn't make him just take the squash. And that's cool. But then the end, like the exit where everything just goes dark and suddenly he's all the way up. And if you noticed that kind of peer back really reminded me a lot of the Undertaker peer back when he finishes a match. Like, when he's done, and he goes up to the top of the ramp and gives you that look back and you get that close up. It was a much different version of that, but it was kind of like that a lot. And I'm fine with that. I think it worked very well. And the ending, I thought, was when you have a crowd chanting, that was awesome after the character left. You don't see that too often. No. Bray's obviously a genius. I think whatever he wants to do, the WWE should give him carte blanche and just let him do with this character. And don't let Vince's hands get onto this thing at all. And just allow this to evolve into whatever it evolves into, because this Bray character could be, one of the best character runs that we've seen over the last 10 years.
And Brian, what did you think of not seeing this character on Monday or Tuesday? And we really didn't even hear a whole lot about The Fiend on Raw or SmackDown.
We didn't hear anything about. There was not, unless I missed it, there was not one mention on both shows. Everything Darin said was just about perfect. My biggest concern is how they're going to screw it up. Mm-hmm. I hope they let Bray have complete creative control. I'm assuming most of this is all him. From what I gather from the people that would be able to tell me is that he's been working on this for a while and it's been all him. So I hope that continues. They have me interested.
Yes.
With very little information out there. So that's the most intriguing part. I want to know what's next. I want to know, are we ever going to see Pee Wee Herman-like character in person, or is he simply going to be, on screen? Is the Fiend ever going to talk? It's just, there's a lot of unanswered questions, which is great, because if you watch wrestling, and like you guys have forever, and like I have forever, a lot of it's predictable, and you kind of know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where we're going to see him next. I don't know who he's going against next. I don't know what show he's on. There's a lot there. And, the entrance was great. I have the song now on Spotify, the new version of his theme song. It was great. It was awesome. There's no other words. I haven't heard one person say something bad.
No, and
Gino, the only other thing I was going to jump in and say, we were talking about, the Mr. Rogers character versus the Fiend. The one thing that at some point I'm hoping they figure out a way to do is you have the Mr. Rogers character in the ring, and the lights go out for 15, 20 seconds, and they come back out, and the Fiend is there. Like a quick transition. Like I don't know if it's possible.
Like the Steven Urkel to Stefan Urkel when he gets in the transformation chamber. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they don't bring out a transformation. But, lights go out 15 seconds, they come back on, and he's completely transformed. I'm hoping at some point
it would have to be two different people.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
or we have the two of them standing in the ring with looking at each other, and then that's one thing that I've liked and I've seen and I've noticed now, even just the last few weeks since we've heard that maybe Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff are having a little bit more of a say backstage in the creative. I felt like I'm interested in what's going to happen next week a lot more than I've been maybe in the last year. And WWE used to do a really good job of that in the Attitude Era or in, the eras when wrestling was really hot is, okay, hey, here's our little cliffhanger. We're going to tell you about it next week. And so right now with the Roman angle still out there that we're all kind of curious in, with the Fiend, with some of these new pushes that we're getting, and with something like King of the Ring next week, I think we're all excited for the next episode of Raw or SmackDown. And for a while, it was kind of like, okay, Raw's coming on now. I'll throw it on, while I'm doing some work. I'm a little more excited now to see what's going to happen in the next few weeks. And the man leading the charge is Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, whether you like him or not, or whether you like the way they built him leading into the match with Brock Lesnar, when they the two of them have really good chemistry. And I don't want to see a whole lot more of Brock and Seth, but anytime we've seen the two of them together, whether it be the two of them with John Cena in a triple threat, or the two of them with Roman at Mania, or the couple matches that they've had, it seems like Brock respects Seth quite a bit because he gives him a lot, and he goes pretty long with Seth where he has not gone with others. So I like the match. I like the fact that Seth came out of it looking tough. It was probably one of the better, if not the best match on the card. And hopefully, as we've said, we can get the Seth Rollins, I'm one of the best workers in the world, and not kind of whiny, I'm Becky Lynch's boyfriend, Seth Rollins, moving forward. Darin, what'd you think about the Universal title scene?
I thought it was a great match. To be honest with you, I was at WrestleMania. That was the match I was hoping to see at WrestleMania. I know a lot of people like the fact that Heyman came out and started the show. And looking back on it, it was kind of cool the way they did that. But the match that we had at SummerSlam was the match I was hoping to see at WrestleMania. Because if you look back over Brock's best matches, they come against guys like Rollins. His match against Styles a couple of years ago at Survivor Series, the match against Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
Those matches when he's up against that, I won't call him a little guy, but a smaller guy that's...
Even the Finn Balor match at the Rumble.
Yeah, you're right, exactly.
The Finn Balor match at the Rumble, that's where he has his best work. The matches with Roman, or Strowman, they're just kind of like big guys barreling into each other, and, they're not his best work. Now, that being said, and I love Rollins as a worker, and I feel bad that I'm saying this, I'm really getting near the end of my rope with the Rollins babyface character.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, he's so much better as the heel. To me, the babyface Seth Rollins seems so forced. It seems like if he's not in the Shield where he's just going out and beating people up and not, playing with the crowd, it's better. But when he's by himself and he's doing all this rah-rah cheerleading stuff and knowing what Rollins was like as a heel, to me, it's just so much less than what he can do.
I almost think his voice, like his tone of voice, maybe is something to do with it. Because I love him too, and you watch him in the ring and you go, his moveset is great for a babyface. The crowd wants to get behind him. This guy can go out there and work every night as good as anyone. But when he gets on the mic and he starts cutting the babyface promos, he always kind of comes off a little whiny, or I just don't quite. It doesn't really connect 100% with me like it does when he's in the ring as a babyface. Do you feel that at all, Brian, or like recently, or how do you like him better as a face or a heel?
I like him as I don't know, how do I answer this? I think he has moments as a face where I really like him. I like his WrestleMania. I liked his match. That he had. I think the match they had on Sunday was the match they both wanted at WrestleMania,
Mm-hmm.
and for whatever reason they didn't get it. And I think part of the reason we got this match was because somebody got in the ear and said we deserve this, or either that or they just had nothing else for either of them. But what I liked about the match itself was, while while I thought the whole time Seth was going to somehow win, especially after he guaranteed it on Raw, Brock's the last guy now in WWE that you just don't know.
Yeah.
Brock can always win. If he came out on Monday and beat Seth again, I would not be the least bit surprised. So that was the part that I found intriguing, that there was still that little bit of uncertainty in my mind that, was Brock going to end up winning this? Like last year at WrestleMania, that really stunned. When he beat Roman at WrestleMania last year, I was stunned. So, that was the most intriguing part. As far as Seth as a babyface, look, to me, it's, he's got to do less mic work and more in-ring work. And, that's where it works when he's, more of the, not the, I want to earn your respect and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's just stale from anybody these days.
Mm-hmm.
And especially from the Universal Champion, the guy they're trying to make one of the faces of the company. So that's my issue. But I'm a big Seth Rollins guy. I like the music. I like to burn it down. I think that all fits him. So, yeah, I mean, to me, would he be he was a great heel. I mean, I didn't, sell out. I bought in. That was a tremendous promo, and he worked great as a heel, and he works great as a member of the Shield. This character is decent, not great, but I think he's got a chance to improve.
And that was SummerSlam. I'm going to let you guys go in just a second. I want to just pick your brain on one thing and get a prediction before I do. King of the Ring is returning, and I love the King of the Ring as a pay-per-view, and it kind of became more of a tournament that they would do over a couple of weeks on TV. And what's great about the King of the Ring, and hopefully in this era, is that it gives matches just a little more something. When we watch these really good matches week in and week out, I want them to have stakes, whether it be something small like a tournament like this, or a number one contenders, or a title shot, or something just to make the match a little bit more so we actually care who wins and who loses. Here's what the field of 16 looks like for the King of the Ring, and then I'll go to Darin, and then I'll go to Brian. Give me maybe who you think's going to win or who you would like to win. It's Cedric, Drew McIntyre, The Miz, Ricochet, Ali, Kevin Owens, Chad Gable, Andrade, Shelton Benjamin, Sami Zayn, Baron Corbin, Apollo Crews, Cesaro, Elias, Samoa Joe, and Buddy Murphy. That's your field for the King of the Ring. And remember, this was a tournament that Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Kurt Angle all won throughout the years. So this was something that they used to use to kind of help put a rocket on someone's back. If they did that again, it would be great. What do you think of this field for the King of the Ring, Darin?
A good field, a lot of good workers. Based on what's transpired and who's getting pushed and some of the things that happened, I'll say Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe final. Kevin Owens wins, kind of playing off of what happened last week, and maybe him and Shane continue butting heads where, he's yelling, I'm the best of the world, and Kevin Owens is saying, yeah, but I'm the King of the Ring, and, blah, 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 that kind of thing.
And the shirt, right? KOTR. Isn't that a shirt right there? King of the Ring, KOTR. I saw that somewhere else. I can't remember, but that sells itself. Somebody backstage at WWE has got to be thinking we can sell a bunch of shirts with KO as the King of the Ring. What do you think, Monzo?
Sorry, I'm transitioning to this radio show that I do. But I'll give you a quick answer here. The field itself is solid. The two things. I think, I'm going to throw one at you here. I think Andrade is going to win. I think they've set him up.
Great.
The sweep of Mysterio. They obviously he's, involved with somebody that's of a higher echelon there in Charlotte. His character is great. He can work. He's, he's gets a good, he gets a pretty solid reaction.
And you got Zelina helping him. She could help him win any match with the cheating and the interference and the.
And I also think that the for the most part, and I'm not talking about Bret Hart, but for the most part, what the King of the Ring tournament has done is taken somebody that is maybe in the middle of their career and gives them that push. Austin,
and even Owen.
Owen, yeah. Bret Hart, not so much, but
Triple H wasn't a huge star when he won. Yeah, there was a lot of them. Yeah.
So I think that's where it makes the most sense. I don't think Kevin Owens doesn't need to win the King unless you're putting some kind of reward, like a championship match at the end of this. If it's just to name the King of the Ring and then give them a, regular typical push, it doesn't have to be one of your top guys. It has to be somebody you're trying to elevate. And what we've seen from Andrade the last couple of weeks, he may be the guy.
Really good stuff, man. Brian Monzo, you can follow him on Twitter. Unbelievable stuff. Brian, let everybody know how we can get in touch with you if we want to follow and talk some wrestling and see what's going on at WFAN.
Sure, text me 908. No, I'm just kidding. No, B Monzo Radio on Twitter. Hit me up anytime, anywhere, 24 hours a day. I'll probably, if I haven't muted you or blocked you, I'll check you out. Awesome,
Brian. Thank you for your time. And Darin, where can we find you?
Twitter at the Track 7. Anything racing, baseball, obviously wrestling. I always interact with people. Love the back and forth. Love the conversation. And I'll always be quick to respond. So definitely hit me up, Gino. I appreciate it.
And Disney, by the way.
Oh, and Disney too. Yeah, awesome. I really appreciate it, guys. This was a blast. I asked you for about 30 minutes. We went over, I think, like an hour and 10. So
that was predictable, though, wasn't it?
It was. We knew that the three of us, especially when we're talking.
Very long-winded. So
yeah, we all are. We could have sat here for 3 or 4 hours. But I really appreciate it.
13 and 30 seconds. So
thanks, guys. Brian and Darin, you have a great one, and I'll be back with just a little bit more here on That's What G Said. Hope you liked that interview with Brian Monzo and Darin Zoccali. Make sure to follow them on social media. Really great follows if you like horse racing or WWE or just sports in general. Great guys, too. In the competition, the contest for the best wrestling movies, we ended up with 16, and right now the voting with just a couple hours left. It looks like the round of 8 will be Vision Quest. Vision Quest has the lead right now over the Wizard. The new wrestler with Mickey Rourke has the lead in that matchup over Takedown. Man on the Moon has the lead in the matchup over Legendary. Paradise Alley and Win-Win, that one could still go either way. Ready to Rumble beating Foxcatcher. I think that's a little bit of an upset. Nacho Libre with the 60-40 win right now over Body Slam. That one could still maybe go either way. The Old Wrestler from 1974 against Reversal. The wrestler has the lead, and No Holds Barred is beating Fighting with My Family for the current tournament, the best wrestling movies. Okay, let's close things out. We'll talk a little BH90210. So the show got really good ratings week 1, but it had a big drop week 2. Still actually got a decent rating, but not nearly that massive rating that it had in week number 1. I actually thought that the second week was a much better episode. And I think it's going to start to get a lot better and take shape. I understand if you think it's corny and don't like it, but I actually like it. I think I like the kind of the approach that they have. While they're playing themselves in real life, but basically playing the characters they played on the show. And now with the storylines, things will start to get a little bit better. It opens with Jenny. She's having a nightmare. They're all back in high school, but they're as their current old selves in high school. Then she wakes up. She's kind of sour and not sure about the reboot idea that Tori has. She wants to reboot 90210. Jenny's daughter tells her to stop complaining. Jenny's daughter, we start to meet her. She wants to be an actress now. She has a script. She wants to audition for a role, and Jenny shoots her down. It's not till she's 18. She doesn't want her daughter to have to go through the same, issues that she went through. Tori and Jenny go to Fox to pitch the idea of the reboot. And the reason being, their video from Vegas where they went crazy and Tori broke the glass and stole that dress, got 5 million views in 24 hours. The Fox executives love the idea of the reboot. They've always been fans of 90210, but they assume that Tori and Jenny have already talked to the rest of the crew and have got them on board for the reboot. So they want to do the show, but only with the full cast. So now Tori and Jenny have to go try to get everybody on board. Really, Tori has to get everybody on board. Next up, the group has to go to the courthouse about their recent jailing, the incident in Vegas when they got out of hand. So they were charged with larceny, destruction of property, public urination, and public drunkenness. Get more of that fun Jenny and Jason interaction where they love-hate each other. Tori, she's trying to get everyone to join the show, so she wants to do everything she can to
to appease people. So she tries to take responsibility for everything. She wants to get everyone on her side for the reboot. So she's going to get charged now in civil court by the person she stole from, and she'll have to pay $100,000 in damages. Everyone gets 50 hours of community service for what they did. Tori tries to ask everyone about the show. They all laugh. They do not seem interested in doing a reboot. She starts to beg, please guys, I need this. They all shoot her down, except Jenny so far, who has agreed. Now Tori's at home. She's strategizing on how to get the rest of the cast on board because she needs this show. She needs money. Jason's at home with his wife. She wants him to do the reboot. She says, can you imagine Brandon and Kelly publicly back together? She thinks it would be a big help for his image. You know, she's the publicist. And she's very publicist-y with him. We kind of find out why. She's got an affair going on. And she's now getting blackmailed by an ex of hers, someone that she cheated on Jason with. She walks outside of the house and this guy is like around their backyard and she has this real awkward interaction with him and then tells him to leave. He basically tells her he's going to blackmail her if she doesn't help and give him some of the connections that she has. Brian, who has got the bug to get back into acting now, he's auditioning, but he blows an audition and then he insults the script and the writers, but he still ends up getting the job because of his wife, Shay. She promised that she would do a song, so she basically got him this job, which pisses him off. He wants to get back out there on his own. That's kind of why he wants to act again. He wants to be out there on his own merit, not necessarily be in the shadow of his wife. Everyone's ignoring Tori's calls as she keeps calling him and trying to get him to do the show. Jenny's doing a little day drinking. Tori then kind of realizes she's got doing everything with her as a mom. She's worrying about her kids, but she realizes that she can manage and she has a plan. She wants to try to give everyone a little something in order for them to agree. So she talks with Jason and she offers him the chance to direct the pilot. And now he seems much more interested because he wants to direct. Jason and Gabrielle are with Gabby's granddaughter. Jason asks Gabby to pull some strings and to get that actor who punched him to lay off and to drop the charges. She agrees to set up a meeting between the two of them. They're having a conversation. He ends up telling her that he slept with Jenny. She admits that she kissed a girl and that she's kind of been exploring these feelings for a while. So they're able to share things with each other, maybe like they used to years back, and they haven't really been able to have that person to share with. But they of everyone seem like they have stuck close. This wasn't a new feeling for Gabby, but you know she can't tell her husband. I think she feels good about having Jason there to talk to. She wants to be true to herself, but she doesn't want to hurt her husband's feelings. Brian's upset with his wife Shay. She got him the job. He wants to do it on his own and not be a chump, but he is a little too mad for someone who's just trying to help. Like she's just trying to help him because she loves him. She seems so cool. She really does. Rich, singer, beautiful, sweet. There's got to be something up with her, right? She can't just be that perfect. We see that random guy with Brian's ID again, and he's like stalking them. He's taking pictures of Brian and Shay. He's putting up pictures in like a billboard all over. Next up, that actor kid that Jason punched, the one who was hating on Jason and said, "Oh, you're always going to be Brandon Walsh." In order to drop the charges, he wanted Jason to co-star in the show with him. So Jason's all dressed up like a superhero. They do a fight scene. The kid cheap shots him and he kicks him in the nuts right after. So they go to the doctor just to check and make sure everything's okay. Gabrielle's there. She sees it. She helps him. Jason, as she's helping him, Jason says something to Gabrielle that triggers feelings for her, and it seems to hit home. He said this kid has some issues. He needed to work them out, though, through his character. And that hits home to Gabby. So now she is thinking about maybe doing the reboot, because maybe these feelings that she has for women and these feelings that she's had, she can explore them through the character of Andrea. So Jason texts Tori. Now he's in for the reboot. He's getting to direct. Gabby texts Tori. They start to talk. she's in for the reboot, but she wants to kind of be in charge of the character. She wants to have Andrea explore her sexuality, a more diverse cast and diverse crew. So that's her want for getting in the reboot. Ian, he's getting divorced now. He got everything in the divorce from the cheating wife. But one thing he wants is from Tori. He wants Tori to be a partner with him on his new brand, Health and Beauty Projects Next Gen by Ian and Tori. She agrees. Ian is in for the reboot. He's all about his brand, baby. All about the brand. Ian. Brian turned down the movie that he got a part in that Shay set him up for. But after a drink with Tori, Brian is now in the reboot. Jenny, on the other hand, she's out. Her daughter, who she's been having fights with over this acting stuff, has just filed for emancipation. So Jenny decides that she's out right after Tori has gotten commitments from basically the rest of the crew except for Shannon. Tori has this weird dollhouse with all their dolls in it that she plays around with. And it's just creepy. Brian and Shannon seem like they've still kept in touch. They're good friends. They talk. He's asking her advice about work, about his love life. He tells her that Tori is trying to get a hold of her, and Shannon says, "Oh, I got something to do." Doesn't seem very interested. Jason then goes to Jenny's to talk about why she's not doing the reboot. And he's really nice to her and really nice to her about her daughter. He gives her a big compliment. He says that she's going to be she's a great mom, that her daughter will be in good hands because of her. And now they decide that, or Jenny really decides that she wants to have her daughter on the reboot. That way she can help her get into the world of acting, but she can also be there for her. And now we start to see that chemistry really with Jenny and Jason, Brandon and Kelly start to pick up. They're all doing their community service. They're picking trash out at Griffith Park, and they're flirting, Jason and Jenny. He then tells her his wife is pregnant, and she seems really bothered because I think she feels like there's something with them. They're getting back into something. Tori stops them all to thank them about the reboot and agreeing to do it, and she mentions how she wants to update 90210. She starts talking about what they should discuss for their pitch when they go into Fox so that they're all on the same team. Andrea's exploring her sexuality. They've hired a writer to help on 90210. Jason is the director. Tori is the producer. Ian wants to have some product placement for his brand's relaunch in. Then they start to get into a fight because Jason, who's the director, says, "No way, this is my show." They all start arguing. We know that Jenny wants her daughter in it. And then Ian makes a joke about Tori and nepotism, and look how good that worked for Tori. But Brian's the only one who actually has a real legitimate wish. He said he wants everyone to be equal partners, including the creativity. They're out when picking up trash, and TMZ gets the pictures of all of them, and those pictures go viral, and it gets good buzz as they go in for their meeting together at Fox. But they don't have Shannon. Tori makes an excuse about Shannon not able to be here at the moment, so Fox still thinks that Shannon's in. And there's a new executive who's going to be running the show and be in charge of the day-to-day of the reboot. Emily Valentine shows up, and she seems like she's on board with all of their ideas. Final part of the show ends with Jenny with her daughter. She talks to her. She says she doesn't want to stand in her way, and she gives her daughter the contract for a part on 90210. She says she's going to prepare her, and she's going to tell her everything. And she means everything. Gabby's now back with her husband. She's having a drink, and she tells him she wants to do the reboot, and she says she wants to do it because she's always wanted to have Andrea explore her sexuality, and then she goes on to tell him why this is important to her. We don't see it, but we hear her starting to tell him what happened, we think, and that she, has feelings for women also. Shay apologizes to Brian for overstepping her with the audition, but she is just so damn cool. She loves him. She just wants to help him, and she's really happy that he's back and doing the reboot. And again, we see that weird guy. Is he somebody's illegitimate kid? Is he a crazy stalker? He's watching them again. Jason is getting ready to sit down to meet with the writer. Since he's going to be directing 90210, he wants to meet with the writer and talk about the direction of the show, what angles they're going to use, and kind of what storylines and how they're going to, what's the approach. And the guy that walks in and meets Jason, he doesn't know. We know as the audience, it's the guy that was messing around with Jason's wife. Jason gets a call from the doctor. The doctor lets him know that after he got hit in the nuts, that Jason has some fertility issues, pre-existing fertility issues, that he cannot have a kid without medical help. So now Jason's going, what? My wife is pregnant. And we realize that it's not Jason's baby. It's actually the baby of the man he's sitting right next to, the man that he's supposed to work with as a writer, the man who blackmailed Jason's wife into getting him the job to begin with. This is the soap opera type stuff, and I love it. His wife was cheating. Jason doesn't know, though. He sits down and he talks with the writer. He doesn't know this is the guy. The weird stalker kid then applies to be Brian's assistant. Since Brian knows he's going to be busy on 90210, he's going to need some help and an assistant, and this kid is applying to be Brian's assistant. The episode ends with each of them getting a doll of them sent to their house. Those dolls that Tori was playing with before, the 90210 character dolls. Well, Jason sent the doll of Brandon, and they're each sent the doll of their character in a sick way. Like, they're like voodoo dolls, and they're versions of them with barbed wire, one with pins in them, one with severed heads, one with the removed limbs and blood all over. They were creepy. So now, that's what I like about this show. Now we're starting to get into other things. Now we're going to get into the Jenny and her daughter relationship. We're getting into, Brian and Shay a little bit more. We're getting into this creepy guy who's stalking him and who might be somebody's kid and who's trying to work with Brian. We're getting into the Jason and his wife are pregnant, but it's not Jason's kid, but he's going to have to work with the guy who impregnated his wife. And now Jason and Jenny are getting back into it. We know that Tori is kind of got some feelings for Brian still underneath. We see that Gabby's exploring her sexuality. So there's a lot of different stuff going on, which I like. And I think once we continue to branch out into these other storylines, the show's going to get better and better. So that's episode 2 of the 6 episodes that are out. We'll go through and we'll recap all of the 6 when they come out one each week, one at a time. And then we'll see if the show gets picked back up for more. I sure hope so. It's going to do it for this episode of That's What G Said, folks. This was a long one. Thank you for sticking with us all the way. Make sure to get on over to iTunes. Leave a nice 5-star rating and review with a little comment. Those help me quite a bit. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on SoundCloud. Get on over to Google Podcast, TuneIn, Spreaker, anywhere that you listen to your podcast. Make sure to look for That's What G Said and give us a subscribe. Thanks a lot, folks. Send it on over to Joey to close things out.